Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. It's April 26th, 2026. 4/26/26. And we're still here fighting this battle, right? And there's many different stories are breaking all at the same time. Of course, if you were watching the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night, you would know that there was an alleged attempt on the president's life last night, which I'm kind of already looking at it saying, how did this even happen, right? How did a one lone gunman with a shotgun and a pistol, African American gentleman named Cole Thomas Allen from Los Angeles, who's a teacher apparently, another teacher, you never would have thought teachers were so violent, right? How did Cole Thomas Allen, who spells his middle name Tomas, not with an H, how did he sneak through multiple layers of security? I'm assuming metal detectors as well, multiple levels of security, was able to assemble a long weapon, a shotgun, in a room where he was unobserved, and then sprint past security and try to take any kind of shot he could at some of Trump's people, right? That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to take out anybody in Trump's orbit, which is, is this really, really happening? Come on, dude. Really? The security's that lax? How many layers of security did you have? Here's him being taken down outside the ballroom, apparently. He tried to sprint past security. They have his shirt off. So it looks to be that there's multiple police as well as Secret Service around him. He has looks like they stripped all of his clothing off. And he's got a saran, one of those saran wrap things around him. Aluminum foil to keep him covered and warm. And he's no shirt, on the floor on his stomach. Surrounded by, it looks like multiple Secret Service as well as as well as police. So he stormed the facility. He storms the facility. He somehow managed to get into a private room, assemble a long weapon, take a shot, come out, sprint through security, take a shot at somebody. And then the room starts to panic, and they actually forced Trump on his knees to crawl out of the room, apparently, thinking that he was at danger. They tried to put him on his knees. I mean, look how fake this looks. This isn't how you usher the president out. You would usher him out quick with a quick run out, right? You wouldn't put him on the ground, and now everybody's down, and it's a fear event, and oh my God. And some of the press are trying to be all brave and film the whole thing. This is a bunch of bullshit, dude. Come on, please. You telling me that one guy got past multiple layers of security, including what I assume had to have been metal detectors, got into the facility, got into a private room, assembled the weapon, and then comes out and tries to sprint past security, shoots one guard, and then tries to take a shot, and then is taken down. Not killed. Don't these Secret Service guys have Uzis? Wouldn't they just spray your ass down? Or are you in a public place and they couldn't do that, so he got swarmed pretty quick? And then Trump reveals Melania's chilling words. Look at Melania's face. She looks good. Trump looks like he's expecting it. Look, he doesn't even look worried. He's like, yeah, we planned this whole thing out. Just pretend like you're scared. Yeah, they'll usher me out. But what's the point of doing it if it is a fake event, which I'm assuming it is? Right? What's the point of doing it? Is it to get the president, some support publicly, so people feel bad about it, and they like the president more? Or I'm not really getting it. What's the point of doing this? Because this guy doesn't seem like a killer. He's a teacher. This guy's not a professional assassin, right? This wasn't a hit squad. It was one guy who somehow got into the event with a long rifle, which we don't know how he did it. Was he ushered in the back? Did he come in through the kitchen? How did he get in with a shotgun and a pistol? So that's the one story that just happened last night that's going to sort of take your attention away. What's the other thing, the big story that happened? David Wilcock was killed, right? Or killed himself, allegedly. We talked about David Wilcock. I gave you my opinion on who I thought he was. I'm pretty sure he was like a gatekeeper type of person, right? There's certain people come out of nowhere and know so much information that you say to yourself, there's no way you could know all this shit. And where did you get this information from? Right? You're 30 years old or whatever. Like, how do you know all this shit? Did you read it in a book or somewhere? Like, were you living in a library the last 20 years? There's certain people that come out that claim to know these things, right? Like a Jordan Maxwell in the past who admitted that since he was a young boy, he was reading different books and texts about different things, right? About who are the Illuminati, who are the different groups that were in the world, who was the Vatican, where did their power stem from, right? And he started to learn vast amounts of information. But then there's other people that, like a Wilcock, where he comes out and says, well, I was, an alien abductee, or I've had issues. He's obviously, to me, seems like a high level, someone with empathic abilities. He might be psychic in some way. But the question was he on the side of us, or was he on their side, really? And if you remember, somebody was alleging he was making $5,000 to $10,000 a month. So I don't understand. He's saying he's in monetary difficulty. That would seem like he wouldn't be. He's living in a particularly nice cabin, it looked like. But where is he living? In a state where a lot of deep state people are, Colorado. Remember Kim saying, I got to get the hell out of Colorado. This place is a fucking nightmare, right? Well, that's where he was living. And, if you're a targeted individual, we just don't know. We don't know what he was really going through, what was happening with him. But I became suspicious of him in the coming years after listening to him for many years, because some of the stuff he was saying never made sense. And then on top of that, you find out he's making all this money and he's crying poor. But within the first few minutes of his broadcast going up, I saw him make at least $600 or $700 just from people giving it to him. So the other part of it is he was involved in an aerospace company. Apparently, he had a share of it that was supposedly building anti-gravitic craft that was about to come out with some kind of a public statement. He kept saying that we're close and we're doing this, but you never came out with any public statement. Hey, we're this company, we're building this thing. It's going to be out 2027. You never had a public statement where you were sitting at a table with these people saying you were part of that company. So we didn't know for sure if you were. But if you were, and you're building some kind of craft that the government doesn't want out there, well, maybe they killed you for it, right? Who knows? I don't know. I think it's more likely that his usefulness is over and he's not actually dead. He was just put in a pocket universe. Because if he killed himself and the cops were there when he shot himself, where's the body cam? Where's the police body cam footage? Why wasn't it released? Usually it is in arrests like that. Usually you see body cam footage, right? Somebody pulled a gun on the cops and the cops had to kill him, right? So they received a call. There was a person in apparently, they're saying Wilcock called a suicide hotline or something, that the police got a call that somebody was in distress at that location, right? Now, a cop had showed up earlier than the other cop and did not go to the residence because he was afraid. And he waited for backup because he wasn't sure if there was a weapon involved, etc. So then the story is that Wilcock was outside the residence. He came outside the residence and he shot himself as the cop showed up, which doesn't make much sense because he's one of these people that said, I'm not suicidal. But just because you say you're not suicidal doesn't mean you aren't. And, if you're being MK Ultra, if you were MK Ultra and they put a suicide option in, well, you don't have a choice then. Once they flick that switch, you kill yourself. See, a lot of those shooters kill themselves. They might be MK Ultra, or they're in a sleeve, right? It's somebody in a sleeve, and that's what I think it is more and more. The more I watch the people that I see in New York that aren't even really human, some of them, right? They look like, if you watch Ari's videos and he goes into Washington Square Park, there's demon-possessed people in there. There's people that aren't human in there. And I've long thought that because I've lived in New York my whole life, and I've seen things and people that just don't appear to me to be human, or and then everybody would write it off. Oh, that guy's on drugs. That guy's high. That guy's ranting and speaking to himself and talking in tongues because he's crazy. Well, maybe he's not. Maybe he's just a demon, and he's walking around in a human body because people have been opening up portals and letting shit like this come in for a long fucking time. I remember I was talking to some friends years ago. I said, hey, you ever see the movie Constantine with Keanu Reeves? And they were like, yeah, I think so. I said, well, you should go back and probably rewatch that again, like 3 times. President Trump and First Lady were evacuated from the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night. Reports of a gunman was in the lobby. Thomas Cole was arrested, an African-American gentleman from Los Angeles, California area, who was a teacher, who was, I believe, an engineer, teacher, somebody that was registered to vote but of no political party, just for some reason said, hey, maybe it's a good idea, I'll just go throw my whole life away and just try to kill Trump at the Correspondents' Dinner when I know I'm not going to get any within 50 feet of him. But apparently this guy got pretty close to the room, which you shouldn't even be able to get that close, right? He should have never been able to even get inside the building. And so how is your security, again, that lax? Or is this really just an engineered event? The way I feel about it, it's an engineered event. Because I used to work security, right? There's no way that a president with 3 or 4 levels of security to get, in other words, it's not just one ring of security to get to the president. You got to go through like 4 rings of security. Right? These guys have outer rings of security. They got snipers that are like a mile away looking around, right? Looking at shit, trying to find other snipers. And then within that like sort of mile and less radius, you got other rings of security, right? It's not just like one group of dudes outside a room. No. It's the President of the United States. He's got multiple rings of security. You telling me this lone dude just waltzed in there? Somehow avoided the metal detectors and... What, do you have a fake ID? Come on, man. We're not that stupid. Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is open, but is it open? It doesn't seem like it's fully open. That was a week ago. Trump says Iran has agreed to hand back its enriched uranium stocks, but then we're going back and forth, right? Iran's coming out and saying, well, no, that's not what we said. Then all of a sudden the leader is alive, apparently. He's disfigured horribly. He's waiting for surgeries. His face has been disfigured, apparently. He's lost in one of the bombings. This guy could turn into a freaking hero, right? Now, because he's like all disfigured and shit. And if he shows back up and starts trying to pump everybody up, they better hope that this thing ends soon. Trump's people, because it doesn't appear that it is. I don't think they're going to hand back their enriched uranium stock. I doubt it. This is Paul Sapula's X.com page, Bubble Bath Girl, at Bubble Bath Girl. Paul's Twitter is at Bubble Bath Girl, I guess. Okay, interesting. Mayor Mamdani was asked about his wife using the N-word last week and celebrating the October 7th massacre of innocent Israelis. His response was, she is someone of incredible integrity. I don't see how you get that from what they just said. He writes, I hope black and Jewish New Yorkers are paying attention to what Mamdani calls integrity. Yeah, they probably are. And a lot of them are pissed because, there's a lot of middle class African American, whites, Latinos that are pissed off too because they're first time homeowners maybe, and now they're saying, hey, wait a minute, you're raising my taxes again? You're raising my property taxes? My taxes are some of the highest in the country as it is. Same with New Jersey. New Jersey, I think, has the highest property taxes in the country. I remember looking at some land out in some rural parts of Nevada where like your yearly property tax was like $80 for 40-acre piece. Hey, what's your property taxes on this land? It's $80 a year. What are you paying for your house in New Jersey? $20,000. Holy crap! Really? That's a lot of money, brother. That should be in your pocket, right? Viral news, New York City's X.com page. Former New York City Mayor Eric Adams is at some Albanian event wearing an Albanian traditional hat and stated he loves being an American. So it looks like former Mayor Adams has maybe got an escape route in case he's, was going to get indicted here. He was going to go become an Albanian citizen. What's the Albanian, does Albania do extradition to, probably not, right? Recently, the former New York City mayor received his citizenship and is now an Albanian citizen. So he's a dual citizen now. Is Adams going to run away to Albania in case things get too tough over here for him? Maybe. Radio Genoa, X.com page. Even Hispanics say New York has become an Islamic caliphate. So there is parts of New York that have the call to prayer now. I didn't realize that. It's not in Manhattan, of course. But in one of those outer boroughs where they might have a mosque, they're trying to do it already. This kid lives right near a mosque. He's Hispanic, I believe. And I think it's like directly across the street from his house, unfortunately, where he lives. And he said, Radio Genoa says, even Hispanics say New York has become an Islamic caliphate. So I think this guy's talking in Spanish, but let's just see if we can hear what he's saying. Oh, so here's the call to prayer that's being blared out right by this guy's house, and he's trying to talk over it and give you a video.
Y ahora, escuchar esta mierda todas las tardes. Ya el estado de Nueva York se convirtió en un estado islámico. Mira.
He's like the Islamic call, and he's talking about it, right?
¿Cuál es el propósito de esta mierda? En la mañana, mediodía, en la tarde.
In the morning, in the afternoon, in the night. See, I mean, what is this, right? What other religion does this? Why do I have to hear it, right? It's right across the street from my house. It's 5. This looks like it's very early in the morning. It could be. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. This guy's like, are you kidding me? Where is he in? Brooklyn or Queens? He's probably in Brooklyn or Queens, right? That's where he is, because this shit don't go on in Staten Island. They won't allow it. But it's starting to push itself in, and if people don't start making them protesting it right now, it's going to spread. So the Islamic call to prayer is being blasted in some boroughs of New York City, but not in Manhattan. And I don't believe in Staten Island. It's Brooklyn and Queens, assuming. Well, you need to go get a group of your neighbors together in a peaceful way and go to the mosque in a peaceful manner and speak to the head of the mosque and say, we're not going to allow this anymore. We're going to file a police complaint against you. We might even sue you. We could take you to small claims and sue you. We could sue you for noise or make noise complaints. If enough noise complaints are filed against one business or one place, there will be more of a, they do, for instance, they do keep tabs on how many noise complaint calls are for a certain business, and if it becomes too many, they will step in. Although with this mayor, I don't know. Maybe not, right? Nancy Mace calls on Congress to release sexual harassment records, wants an avalanche of resignations. I pinned this story because I wanted you to remember that there was a secret fund set up, and this came out, I think, in the 90s, that there was a slush fund set up for these guys in the Congress and in the Senate, right? Because so many of these guys were, whatever you want to call it, right? You say, oh, he's a real coon hound, right? He likes to go after a lot of trim. He likes to sleep with a lot of women. He likes to go after that, you know what, right? He likes to just have his fun. He doesn't care about a relationship. He's looking to get laid. That's what a lot of these senators do. They take their power and they use it, right? Or maybe they have a young intern that's working for them and she's attractive, and they begin to have a sexual affair because he promises her that he has friends that are powerful people, that I can move you up the chain of command. How do you think Kamala Harris got to where she got, right? She was sleeping with the former mayor of Chicago, was it? Or what? She was sleeping with a guy who was a powerful man, right? I forgot where he was the mayor of, Los Angeles or whatever. Right? And she started a sexual relationship with a powerful person like that, and used it to to gain power and gain access, right, to other powerful people and start to climb the chain of power, they call it. There's a secret fund, right, that's set up for these guys because so many women were being, launching sexual assault allegations against some of these guys that they had to have it set up in case that happened to protect everybody, right? Otherwise, it could get out that a lot of these guys were sexually harassing women over the years, and they didn't want that, especially in the 70s and stuff. They didn't, right? It wasn't like today. Back in the 70s and the 80s even, it's, women weren't necessarily believed, and a lot of women would not come forward when they were assaulted by powerful men because they were too scared to. Like Virginia Giuffre's a great example. Look what happened to her when she's coming forward trying to fight for justice for herself. She ends up dead. Right? People who mess around with these people, you end up dead. And maybe Wilcock being taken out, if he was with the Dark Hats, pretending to be a gatekeeper, pretending to be like one of these people, like a Gene Decode that knows all this information, but you don't know where they get it from, right? And he's making all kinds of allegations that he's really Edward Casey, reborn and stuff, just because he kind of looks like the guy. And we just don't know, right? There's all kinds of shit going on. I was pretty young when I started to realize that this world, that whatever this place is that I'm living in, this world that I'm living in, there's something wrong with it. There's something that you can't see behind it, right? There's something, and then there was certain people that you knew what it was and they weren't telling you, right? That's what I figured out. And I've come across many of these people along in my life, and I could tell when I'm talking to some of them, and they sometimes think I'm one of them because there's secret codes and words that they use to identify themselves, right? They'd say, oh, are you this kind of man? Are you this thing, right? There's certain codes. I forgot what one of them was. Somebody said one of them to me once, and I didn't answer it correctly, so they knew, oh, okay, you're not you're not one of us. You're just one of the regular peeps. New power faction is emerging. Elite secret meetings in Washington, D.C. and Italy. Kim Goldwyn. That just came out after 2 weeks. I suggest everybody listen to that show, because it's showing, I think, that these guys are on their last legs. This fake assassination is, I think, just another ploy to sort of give the president some kind of goodwill among the people when he's losing support. We're losing. It looks like the Iran war isn't going very well. It looks like we're losing it. It looks like Israel's in trouble. Right? People are saying Israel's 200,000 people may have been killed in Israel, which I'm not hearing anything like that. And I know people in Israel. I know people that are from Israel. So, yeah, I'm not hearing that. They're not calling me on the phone going, holy shit, it's a fucking bloodbath everywhere I look. So, but I don't know. I haven't talked to a lot of people from there in a long time that I used to know. Singer David was arrested on suspicion of murdering missing teens. So I told you he definitely did this. I could almost see him doing it. He's a real evil fuck, this kid. He's a real evil piece of shit. There's certain people now, with my intuition the way it is, and even in the years prior where I would meet people and I'd say, wow, like something's wrong around this person. That happened with my sister years ago. She was marrying this guy, her first marriage, and I was like, man, this guy's the wrong guy. I could already see it all going wrong, and I couldn't do anything about it. I could see the whole thing going wrong. I even knew how many years the marriage would last, and I was right. It was 3 years, and it all went to shit. But if I had stood up that day and said something, I would have been disowned out of my fucking whole family, right? My sister would have never spoke to me again. Even though I was right, you can only warn people so much. After a while, they don't listen to you anymore because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to know. This is translated from a Japanese account on X.com. Nigerians are holding a massive barbecue party in Japan. They're lighting fires without permission by the riverbank. They're leaving trash scattered everywhere. Apparently, it's being used as a promotional video to lure more of their compatriots from where are these people from? Nigeria. For the Japanese people cleaning up afterward with tax money and volunteer work, it's nothing but a huge nuisance. This is kind of cultural friction. Enough is enough, right? Yeah, so what they're doing is they're shipping a bunch of Nigerians and Muslims into Japan now, right? Again, they're putting people into a culture where they do not assimilate, they cannot assimilate, and now they're starting to have their own parties and break the local rules of the... These people are not going to be dealt with too nicely when that happens, because if you piss off the Japanese too much, go back and look at what the Japanese did to the first... Catholic, priest that tried to show up there and tried to bring the Catholicism into Japan. Go look at what they did to those guys, and you'll find out how Japan can deal with outsiders that they don't like. Particularly harsh. They just tied them up to crosses and let them sit in the ocean, right? As the tide came in, and see how long it takes you to drown like that. How many days can you stay on a cross, tied up to a cross in the ocean, right? Where the tide's coming back and forth, going out, then it comes back in and almost drowns you. It goes back out, comes back in and almost drowns you. That's what they did to the priest that showed up in Japan early on. Said, we don't want you here. We're going to kill every last one of you till you stop coming. But they kept coming, right? Here's Niall Berg's account on Twitter.com. It's an absolute madness in Iran. The ceasefire has made the surviving regime rabid and intoxicated. They're now having parades, reportedly all the time in the streets, including at nighttime, where they will scream Islamic chants and intimidate normal Iranians trying to sleep. If anyone complains or even speaks to other people, the regime will arbitrarily arrest them on invented charges. Do not abandon Iran, President Trump. Do not forget your initial promise was to help the people, not impose a nuclear deal. Here's another account. I meme, therefore I am, on X.com. New Yorker exposes immigrants who used food pantries and then illegally resell the food on the streets. So some of the people are taking this free food that they're getting in either food pantries or Mamdani's new supermarkets. And there's, well, not there, because you do have to actually pay for some of that food, right? It's just cheaper or something. But if you're getting free food from a pantry and then going in the street and selling it to somebody, I mean, who's going to buy that? You're turning my country into like a second world nation, right? Where you just got people everywhere selling crap on the streets. You got food carts all over the freaking place, leaking grease and belching out pollution from gas-powered generators. You got food trucks idling all over the city that are diesel engines idling all day, adding to that pollution level. It's probably the most polluted it's ever been. Somebody should go into Midtown Manhattan and take an air sample. Stand next to one of those food carts and take an air sample. And then when you look up, you realize, oh, this guy's only like 30 feet from someone's window right there. They must be smelling that smoke. They can't have their windows open, that person. Unless you want to have shawarma smoke and the stink of all this guy's food cooking in you. And then you got the kebab guys that show up who have like a charcoal grill. You ever see those guys? They got a whole charcoal grill going with smoke and kebabs and shit. Imagine that guy's like outside your house 5 days a week. You start to realize, like, I'm being forced out. They don't want you to stay. They're going to put these people all through the fucking city until so many people get fed up with it, they'll just leave. In droves, they'll leave. But then the problem is, who's going to come take their place? A bunch of people that can't afford to live here? A bunch of people who aren't going to pay much tax? The whole city will go implode on itself then. It won't exist anymore. Maybe that's what they want to do. Maybe they don't want big cities like this anymore. Maybe they don't work. They can only work with a certain parameters, right? The rent has to be a certain price. It has to be fairly cheap to attract the interesting people that you need to make interesting neighborhoods. That's part of it, right? You can't have, if every neighborhood costs, a one bed costs $4,000 or a two bed costs $4,500, whatever, you're not going to get those interesting eclectic artist types, interesting people in general to come here, because only rich people or people who have a very high paying job can live here. And those people are not bohemian, usually. Those people are not artists. Those people are not painters. Those people are not sculptors. Those people are not musicians. Those people are not dancers. Right? Those aren't professions where you usually get rich doing it. Although you could, right? If you're a rock star, maybe you become a famous dancer or something, but usually not, right? Most guys who are playing like just their own music, they're just doing it because they love to do it. They're like hoping that maybe some people will buy my albums, but really you're doing it because you love to play music more than you want to make money. If you're doing it just to make money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. String of missing or dead scientists too coincidental not to be major concern, Congressman said, as 11th mystery emerges. So they're saying that, well, all these scientists had disappeared. One female scientist said she was getting roofied every time she'd go to a bar. An older guy would show up, hit on her, and roofie her up, try to roofie her. So there's obviously people trying to do something to these scientists, right? There's somebody that doesn't want the anti-gravitic craft to come out. That's obvious. Why is it obvious? Well, because it would have come out already then, in Trump's first term. Like I said, I think Trump was told by some powerful people, hey, you're not, no anti-gravitic craft, you're not going into Area 51 or 2. You're not talking about this, you're not going to do the med beds, you're not going to do the Tesla stuff. No, none of it. You're starting to see on Instagram an explosion of web pages I'm seeing where or it could be just the algorithm, if you look for free energy devices, and then all of a sudden you'll see all these people doing stuff with magnets, with bleach and water to make, lamps and stuff, and just all kinds of shit. Opposing magnets to create free energy, people creating their own free energy devices, and then setting it up to run their house. There's a bunch of people have proof of concept already on, stuff like this. So it's, what's going to, I think, happen is the government's going to have to go along, because you can't kill everybody now. If there's 50 guys doing a free energy device, how are you going to kill them all? So one of their devices is going to get through to the public. What you got to do is just start selling it publicly. It's harder for them to kill you when you're selling a public device. And you're in the public now saying, hey, this is $50. Here's a lamp that never goes out. All you got to do is change the bulb. The power's free. It's $50. Lifetime free energy. Wouldn't everybody scramble? I mean, even if it was $100 for that lamp, I think everybody would buy it. What do you mean? I don't got to plug this in? No. Just move the magnet over when you want the light on. When you want the light off, move the magnet back over. Free energy for life. You wouldn't pay $100 for that? I would. I'd pay $100 for a couple of those lamps. And maybe the blueprint. How about that? 100 and the blueprint comes with it. You make your own next time. Why not? Trump administration mulls unfreezing $20 billion in frozen Iranian assets. You're giving them their money back. I thought we were at war with these people, though. Wait a minute. You don't give $20 billion. Do you remember the Mongols giving someone a lot of money and then while they're at war? Hey, let me give you all kinds of cash so you can keep the war going with me. That doesn't make any sense. No, I want to make so you don't have any money. I want to make you suffer. I want to encircle your cities and so you can't get food. I want to make it so you have nothing. Trump rips Mayor Mamdani for destroying New York City with tax the rich agenda. It will only get worse. Yeah, well, what happened was Mamdani went outside that rich billionaire's house trying to make a statement, and he said, hey, you know what? I got a deal that's going through. It's worth like $6 billion in your state, in your city. Maybe I'll just pull that deal now because I don't like your attitude. Maybe I'll pull that deal out of New York and we'll go to like New Jersey or Connecticut and give them the money. How about that? You snide asshole. So, you got to have some big money in the city or it doesn't run. What do you think pays the majority of the taxes here? The middle class? No. It's the rich. It's corporations. That's how all this big budget shit gets done. How do you think you build these massive bridges and all this shit? You got to have bonds. You got to have people that are financing it. You got to have rich people giving donations to the city, right? UK PM Keir Starmer is under pressure to quit over U.S. ambassador security scandal. Yeah, weren't you in your underwear, remember? This guy's a piece of crap. He's not trying to help the UK. He's destroying it, just like Bojo was and all the other scumbags before him. Not one of them did the right thing. And you thought that one of them would, and not one of them did, right? Because they're all in on it together. It doesn't matter if it's Bojo or the other asshole. They're all on the same team. Mamdani's $30 million city-owned grocery store will cost 4 times the normal price to build. Like I said, what are you using to build this thing? Like marble? And gold? Is it gold appliances everywhere? Marble countertops? Marble floors? It shouldn't cost you $30 million to make a deli, right? Or a small supermarket. It's really not even a supermarket. It's like a glorified deli. It's not that big. It's city-owned land as well, so you're building it with city-owned property you already own. It shouldn't cost nearly that much. It should cost you maybe $1 million, not even $1 million. You should be able to put a deli together, a store, for like, I don't know, not even a couple of $100,000, I would think. I mean, what are you making? What's costing so much? Like I said, you're building this thing either with the most expensive parts or it's a scam and you're stealing part of the money. I'm thinking you're stealing part of the money. Doesn't cost even. They went to big supermarket people who make supermarkets. That's their job, is to build supermarkets out from nothing, from just raw commercial spaces, right? Picture like a 10,000 square foot raw space. It's just open. There's nothing there. It's not divided. It's just one huge space. You can make a supermarket there, but it's going to cost a lot of work. Why? I got to make all the aisles. I got to build out the infrastructure inside. I got to build the deli counters. I got to build the fish counter. I got to build the back of the area where I'm getting all my deliveries and shit. I got to build loading docks out. Right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money to build out a supermarket because it requires a lot of infrastructure, especially if it's not already a built out space, right? It might be some spaces are already built out. Maybe there was another supermarket there and it failed, whatever. You don't have as much building to do, but if it's a raw space like what he's doing, it's usually a lot. But a small deli is a different story. You just need a counter space in the back. You need a couple of rows of food where the food aisles and stuff. It's not nearly as much of a build out as a whole supermarket would be. Like a Wallbaum's or a, I don't know what, ShopRite, whatever you have in your neighborhood where you live. Now they got rid of all the old supermarkets like Wallbaum's here and stuff. Now it's like Costco and, Walmarts and shit. They try to get rid of all the smaller businesses like that. So you're obviously scamming because it doesn't cost $30 million to build a small deli. It just doesn't. And anybody that's done any kind of construction or worked in real estate knows that. The Northern Lights could light up across the U.S. this weekend. I didn't see that. I never saw the Northern Lights in my life. I don't know what these people are talking about. You can't see shit in New York. It's just too much light. A gunman armed with an AR-style pistol tackled by security after entering Aetna's Connecticut headquarters. You're seeing these shootings are starting to escalate again. There was a big shooting in Louisiana. Mall shooting. I am seeing some of these pundits telling their followers not to file their taxes before tax season, by the way. I would never listen to any of these pundits who are telling you that. Okay? Because until they come out and say, hey, the IRS is abolished, they will come for you. Trust me on that. They will come for you. If you do not pay, they will come. And then when they come, they can be particularly vicious about it. So I would just keep paying your taxes. Hopefully you did. And should you have to? No. But, do you want these people trying to, they can take part of your salary. They can come try to take parts of your, bank accounts and shit if you don't pay the tax man. Trust me on that. The tax man will never call you on the phone usually. They will contact you first via snail mail, right? If anybody calls you saying, I'm from the IRS, say, contact me by snail mail. You don't usually call me people like that. I was referring to the song, We Can Be Heroes, right? That's what I was thinking when I was thinking about we can defeat the Matrix together. That's the way we do it. We have to all think about defeating the Matrix and destroying whatever it is, the hologram that's over us. We all have to think about that losing its power. And as we do that, as we raise vibration as a collective, that will happen. And that's why these people so vehemently try to make you angry all the time, to put you in fear, to have you jumping from one story to the next, because that way you can't concentrate on anything. And if you can't concentrate on destroying the Matrix and destroying the Deep State and destroying the Draco and destroying the gray aliens that are messing with us, whoever they are, and whoever else is messing around with us, right? If you're in a fear matrix all the time where you can't think straight because you're in, your adrenals are firing like crazy all the time because there's one story after the next and now they're trying to kill the president again and this. You can't focus on anything, right? Shocking salary of Zoran Mamdani's racist wife revealed as woke mayor's tax filings unearthed. Yeah, she made about 10 grand. I think it was actually more like 8. So she's some kind of artist or whatever. I don't know what she does, but she doesn't make any money. So she's basically just living off him. But apparently before this, he was barely making any money either. They're living in some dumpy $2,000 studio in Queens somewhere. That's where they found this guy. Here's an opinion piece from the New York Post. Mamdani's folly. Capitalists have already solved the grocery problem. Yeah, you're ripping off. This is a way too expensive. Can you itemize everything that you're spending? That's what we need. You made this grocery store. Okay, we want an itemized list of everything you spent on the store. What went into the store? Is the store city-owned land so you don't have to buy a property, right? You don't have to buy this property. You already own it, which means you're saving a huge amount on rent. You don't have to pay rent. Right? So why is it costing so much to build the store out? It doesn't make sense. Are you getting quoted inflated bills from a construction company? Yeah, exactly. How do you think people loan their money in New York? That's one way. Yeah, I got a construction project. It goes on for 2 years. Takes me 2 years to figure this out, how to build a lobby or something, how to build something that should take you maybe a month, 3 months or 6 months. Nope, it took 2 years. The construction cost ballooned to 180% over what we thought they would be, right? And then, hey, if I'm charging, if the guy $500 for a screwdriver, that's another scam, right? How much does the toilet cost? It's cost $1,000 per toilet. Really? What is it made out of? Gold? CNBC anchor rips Mamdani for filming video outside billionaire Ken Griffin's house, demonizing him. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're trying to demonize rich people. in a city that needs rich people to survive. It needs rich people's investment to keep going. Unless you want to go back to like the 1960s New York, you could, where like you could rent an apartment in the village for like $80 a month, $100 a month. Sounds good to me. I'd be able to afford renting an apartment in the village and live in some rat trap, roach infested building or whatever for $100 a month. And your food was, substantially cheaper, right? For $40 you can go out and buy a whole bunch of food. Steaks and vegetables and all kinds of shit and still have money left over. Stormy Daniels looks dramatically different in new photos as disgraced ex-attorney Michael Avenatti has moved to a halfway house. So Stormy got all fat. Want to see Fat Stormy? Let's check her out. There's Fat Stormy puffing on a cancer stick. There she is. There's Stormy. Yep, she definitely put on about 30 pounds, it looks like. Whoa. There's Stormy with her tats. Looks like she's got some kind of devil tattoo on her shoulder there. There's Avenatti with his bucket. Boy, this guy, what a fall from grace. This guy was once, they were talking about this guy running for president. Now he's mopping bucket. He's mopping the floors at a halfway house. This guy was trying to strong arm Nike, remember? Fucking idiot. So there's Stormy Daniels. Outraged CNBC star blasts woke NYC mayor for filming threatening video. Yeah. Okay, I could take this deal that I was going to give to the city with all the tax money that was going to flow in from it. You know what? I'll just take it somewhere else. Yeah, you can go screw yourself. How about that? Congress passes a 10-day extension to government's foreign spying powers. So they're still spying on people. I was referring to PayPal with Elon Musk. He used to have an X.com. Before it was PayPal, it was X. Right? Remember that? What is this guy's obsession with X? Iran fires on a tanker near Oman after reclosing the Strait of Hormuz. So then all of a sudden the strait, it looks like it wasn't open anymore. They were firing on some ships. Then the U.S. boarded a certain couple of ships. Women living under Hamas rule in Gaza are describing to the Mail how they are sexually abused by the terror group's fighters and forced to have sex in return for food aid. Yeah, you were seeing in parts of Israel where people are walking around in parts of Gaza where these Palestinians, they're selling the food to their own people instead of helping them. Right? They're trying to make a profit off this. And it's not food that they bought, it's free food that they got that they stole from the UN food that was coming in that's not getting to all the people. Someone was stealing that, right, before it was getting to the people. And it looks like there were certain Palestinians that were doing that, hoarding that food and then selling it to their own people for a profit at inflated prices, right? We saw that multiple times, which I think is one of the most disgusting things you could do, because not only are you making money off of a situation where you shouldn't be making money, but you're doing it to your own people who are starving, and you're exploiting your own people for money. And on top of that, when some of these Hamas guys' families, the husband dies, what are you doing? You're pressuring their wives and you're raping them. And you're pressuring them to have sex in exchange for food when you should be taking care of that guy's family. Not raping his wife, right? Ilhan Omar blames accounting error and insists she's not rich despite claiming up to $30 million in assets. How do you go from $30 million you allegedly have to now saying I don't own a vineyard and I own less than $100,000 in assets? Are you kidding me? What happened to the vineyard? It just closed all of a sudden? It wasn't in your husband's name for that time period before? It wasn't an asset of his? It appears it was. It appears that these people are stupid because they don't know how to make an LLC that doesn't trace back to them, and instead her husband had all these assets in his name, and apparently they're traveling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of travel, and she has a massive amount of security around her that's costing huge amounts of money as well. How is this criminal in an elected office when you should be in a jail or deported? You're from a criminal family that was allowed over here under Obama. See, you got to go remember back. Some people are too young to remember Obama, right? You might be only in your 20s now. And when Obama was in, it was 2008, and you were too young to remember what the fuck was going on, right? You were still growing up or whatever. But they were fucking us over. Obama gave all the money to Iran, one, and what else did he do? Well, he let a bunch of Somalis and Muslims come into to Michigan and into, right? And we should have been on point at that. Now you got the call to prayer all through Dearborn. Dearborn's basically all Muslim, it seems like, or a majority Muslim now. Trump reveals very interesting findings in top-secret government UFO files and says they'll be released very soon, but you already missed the deadline, right? Where's my med bed? Where's my fucking med bed, dude? Where's my med bed? Where's my free energy? Those should have been the first two things on the list. Those are the two things that fundamentally change society the most. And then you come in with the Nasara Jasara, if that's real, or some kind of monies that everybody is giving back because you've been allowing people to purchase 30-year bonds against my strawman name for my whole life. I want that money back. I want every bond, all that profit that those people got from my name, I want that profit. That's mine. I'm owed that. And so are you, if you were born in the United States or one of these countries where you have some kind of security number, right? Not every country makes you have a social security number. There's no other country that really does that except us. I don't have social security numbers in Africa. Not that I'm aware. Where's my fucking med bed? You're still holding that back. See, that should have been the first two things you did, right? That changes the whole world fundamentally. You don't need oil anymore. Oil goes... All the oil companies close, shutter. Plug up all your wells and go away, right? Nuclear, shut down all your nuclear sites right away. We don't need them anymore. You know how much what does that do to the stock market? It fundamentally destroys it. It can't, if all the oil interests just one day didn't exist, the stock market would implode on itself. Right? And we've never had that market implode on itself still to this day. China urges its citizens to completely avoid the airport in famously woke U.S. city after ICE repeatedly harassed its scholars. I wrote, we should start to deport all anchor babies and those who overstayed visas. We have to go fundamentally through each case and find all these people because there's thousands and tens of thousands of people in the United States that should not be here. Probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands. If you're thinking about visas that people overstayed and all this other stuff, they just never check. So you could literally be living in this country for years and not be a citizen, not paying any taxes, not having a social security number. It's crazy. And just living in this country like tax-free. Kanye West concert in Poland was canceled days after musician postponed a show in France amid furor over his anti-Semitic comments. Well, they don't particularly like Jews in Poland either, but you know who they really don't like also is Hitler. They really hate Hitler over there. Why? Well, what was one of the first places Hitler took was Poland, right? He sent the Blitzkrieg into Poland and they didn't last more than a couple of weeks. He completely destroyed Poland. Hitler, right? So there's no love for Hitler there. So anybody that likes Hitler there, and let's be honest, they don't particularly care for African Americans either. It's not a whole bunch of them in Poland, right? I don't think there's probably almost none. So they're not big fans of Kanye West over there. You can go fuck yourself. Well, why should we let you come in to our country and profit off and make a profit when you're a Hitler fan? You can be a Hitler fan, go ahead, but we're not Hitler fans. We don't particularly care for Hitler here. So take your tour to some other fucking place. You think he's going into Germany? I don't think so. Mamdani's New York City refuses to turn illegal alien charged with killing 4 and arson attack over to ICE, according to the DHS. This was an act of mass murder, as alleged Roman Amatilia deliberately set a fire in an occupied building and killed 4 people, including a 3-year-old girl. Yeah, so you're defending a murderer because you don't like ICE, right? You don't like what ICE is doing. John Thune's Senate has delayed weaponization prosecutors in John Brennan probe for 2 months. Former U.S. Attorney Independent Counsel Joe G. Genova was dispatched to Florida to play a key role in weaponization probe. So it looks like there is a criminal. There's been a criminal charge or indictment against Brennan, I believe, right? That's being held back for some reason. You see, that's the problem. Nobody's getting arrested here. Where's the big names? Why isn't Brennan getting arrested? Why isn't, Hillary arrested? Why isn't Bill arrested? Why isn't Obama arrested? These people are all getting real old, and then they're sort of just fading away. You don't see them anymore, right? I've heard so many different explanations about what's going on. We're ascending to 5D. There's going to be a split. There's going to be a 3 and 5D split. Some people that won't be awake, they're not going to go to 5D. They're going to split back into another Earth that's going to be over here. I don't know. I've never ascended to the next density before this that I can remember. That's what's going on here. The Earth is in a part of space where the last time the Earth was in this part of space in terms of its revolutions around the central sun or whatever is there's a whole other revolution, right, that you're talking about. And the last time the Earth was in this part of the galaxy getting exposed to these type of energies, there was no humans on Earth, if that's true. Which means that we don't know how we're going to respond to this energy, right? This energy is changing us. It's changing your DNA, literally. Because when I go back and look at pictures of what I looked like 10 years ago, I don't look like this. I look completely different. More muscular, more shoulders broader, more muscular. Yeah, I look like I aged, but I'm not aging as fast as a lot of other people are. You can slow the aging process with the I am attribution. I am aging slowly. I am slowing the aging process. I am aging no more. Right? I am reversing the aging process. Use the I am attribution each day as much as you can to speak your reality into existence. I am destroying the matrix. I am destroying all false holographic images that are around, over me, or inside, or near me. MIA, Kash Patel is paranoid about being fired and drinking to excess, bombshell report claims. So, remember when you saw Patel in the locker room and he's screaming with these guys? Like, I've never seen any idiot do that. Like, you're the FBI head. What are you doing? That's supposed to be in locker rooms chugging beer with sports teams. You didn't win. You're not on the team. What are you doing there, you fucking moron? Are you kidding? You look like a freaking idiot. So is this guy going to maybe be fired? We'll see. I don't know. He tried to sue somebody for alleged defamation in the case that was alleging that he was heavily drinking, that his house had to be breached when he wasn't waking up for his calls. They thought something was wrong with him, but he was so hungover, allegedly, that they had to breach his apartment. That was an allegation, and we're not sure if it's true or not. Opposition to data centers turns violent as local concerns merge with hostility toward big tech. Big tech is facing a wave of community opposition to data centers, and some opponents are using violence to advance their cause. Experts say the opposition to data centers has various sources, but whatever the reasons, tech companies will need to find ways to get communities to buy in. Well, if everybody doesn't want it, then they won't buy in, right? Because communities don't want these things. They require a lot of electricity to run, which we don't have a lot of. See, this is the thing again. Remember with the electric car scam? It would have worked if they had the Tesla tech, because then the car batteries would be constantly charging off the ether. They wouldn't have to plug in, right? The whole earth would be electrified. Everything would be. You could stand with a light bulb in your hand and it would just go on, right? You wouldn't have to plug in your radio to something. It would just turn on. If you wanted to play your tape deck or whatever, your stereo system in your house, you just turn it on. It wouldn't be plugged in. It's the wireless world. But these people didn't want that, right? Because they wanted you to be on the petroleum tit. They want you on the nuclear tit, sucking off that the rest of your life, getting your energy from that, which is dirty energy, which is not, well, nuclear is a bit cleaner, but it's dangerous, right? Now they're talking about fusion tech, and some of these scientists who disappeared were also working on fusion stuff, right? Here's IL Yacobi's X.com page. Breaking: masked Islamists wearing Hamas headbands are harassing families eating at restaurants in New York City. And the police are basically like escorting these idiots around while they're harassing people instead of arresting them. It's like we're just completely upside down. I wrote, how is this New York City? When you're allowing this small group to go up to people who may or may not even be Jewish and just start cursing and harassing them? And the cops are basically protecting the people that are harassing the people in New York. They're not protecting the citizens in New York. Because most of these people, I'm assuming, who are these fake masked Islamists who come around, they're being paid to do it. And most of them are not even from New York, is my guess. Trump directs FDA to expedite review of certain psychedelics. Oh, because Joe Rogan said so, right? Yeah, sure. Joe said, hey, can you help some of these guys get on some of this stuff? Hey, okay, I'll do it. Sure. But why haven't we stopped all GMO foods? Why is Monsanto still operating? Why is Monsanto still allowing to produce certain seeds, these non-heirloom seeds? Why are we still being chemtrailed? Why are you still trying to wed us to petroleum energy? Why are you still backing petroleum, coal, natural gas, and nuclear, none of which we should be backing? Why aren't you backing free energy and giving smaller inventors assets and money to go forward with their? You could be doing that too, right? There's 50 guys on Instagram doing their own free energy devices right now. Probably more. There's dudes that are in Africa that are like, hey, if I put some bleach in some water and let it get some sunlight, it makes its own light. There's a chemical process, right? I think it's bleach, water, and one other thing. I don't know, salt or whatever. I don't know. Look up bleach water light. Right? In other words, there's ways that there's gaming. There's people figuring out, hey, I can make this lever system, right, where I pull this chain along through this little motor and it makes its own energy that way. I can make a light last like that, right? I don't need electricity. I don't need it. I can figure out ways to run my motor without it if you're smart enough to figure it out. It's not that hard now, right? I can get a couple of opposing magnets and let's do it. I wrote, if the United States has the rods of God weapon, why didn't we drop it on the Iranian deep bases in the mountains? That would have obliterated their deep bases, no problem. Right? We say we have this rod of God weapon. It's up in the sky, right? It's a piece of tungsten, whatever, rod of tungsten that dropped from space that hits with such kinetic force that it's, like 50 atomic bombs or whatever. Why don't we drop the rods of God on the deep mountain bases that we were trying to hit? I wrote, again, if you remember, there was a congressional secret fund that existed to pay for various sexual assault claims amongst the Senate and Congress. Are there other Swalwells waiting to be removed in this fashion? Oh yeah, there's plenty of them to be removed. You probably missed most of the worst ones. Swalwell's the tip of the iceberg. Most of the other ones are probably gone now from Congress, the worst of the worst. They aged out. Trump order to ensure farmers have herbicides to harvest safe, affordable food supplies sparks debate. Yeah, why aren't you talking about electroculture? Why aren't you talking about copper wire, copper tubing around a piece of wood, put it around your crops and see what happens? You don't need herbicides. That's the whole point. You can let the magnetism of the earth be your herbicide and do it naturally. You can do electroculture around onto your crops and have increased crop yields. But they don't want you to know that because they want you to buy herbicides. And they want you to buy things like, They want you to buy Roundup and all that poison and put it in your crops, because once it gets in the soil content of your land is destroyed. That's what they want. Hunter Biden spotted at Coachella posing with London rappers. So he did leave the country, but then he came back for Coachella, of course. But how are you affording Coachella? You're 17 million in the hole. Somebody bought your Coachella tickets. It's not cheap to go to Coachella. You know how much everything costs there? The food and the beers and stuff? It's incredibly expensive. Then you saw Zoran Mamdani met who? Barack Obama. And they had a little child care center, right? I was scared for those poor little kids. Hopefully none of them got abused. I hope all the kids are okay, I said. New York City schools watchdog got nearly 900 sexual misconduct complaints in 2025 alone. They only substantiated 62 of them. That's a lot of unsubstantiated or claims that you never got to investigate properly to substantiate. That means a lot of children are being abused in the New York City school system, is my guess. That's just 1 year. Almost 1,000 complaints in 1 year. Well, maybe you need to vet your teachers a little bit better, no? How are you vetting your teachers? Are you looking into their social media histories properly? Maybe not. Or are there certain pedophiles within the school system that are hiring other pedophiles? That's what's been happening. Because there couldn't be that many in this school systems all throughout the country unless they were actively being somehow hired and found out and hired by other pedophiles in higher positions. That's the only thing I could think of. Either that or your vetting process is completely non-existent. And you're just saying, hey, okay, your resume looks good. Yeah, it looks like you went to that school. All right. Yeah, you're good. You seem like you're okay. War Department blows past UFO video release deadline as Trump now pushes for a release very soon. Yeah, well, he just seems like he just killed a bunch of people that could have come forward and given you the public some insight into what they were doing, and he killed all of them, it looks like. And, you know, you have a guy like Wilcock who's alleging that he's working in a company. He has a piece of a company that's, I forgot the name of the company, but he had a couple of times mentioned that he was on the verge of, you know, becoming very wealthy with this company when they were and they were creating aircraft that wasn't gas propulsion aircraft. I said, you need to show a live alien on air that's not obviously not looking like a human alien on national TV with the president, with press there, with pundits there, with other people, influencers there, all live streaming at the same time, so it can't be faked. And then you need to have the president and that creature go up in a craft together with the press inside and watching from outside and showing what the craft could do. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of bullshit. You're going to show us some old grainy footage of something like UFO from an F-15 cockpit's like radar. It's like, that's bullshit, dude. Whatever. That's some fake ass shit. Anybody could fake that. We need some real evidence that cannot be repudiated. Former top nuclear official says Fed's likely to uncover crazy stuff about 11 missing or dead scientists. And now you killed all these people, and what? You just think no one's going to look into what they were doing? And Trump's like, oh yeah, it might be connected. Like, he doesn't even think anything's wrong. I think they're trying to cover this whole thing up so you never get the anti-gravitic crap. Because why would they not have given it to us by now? Obviously, they don't want it to come out. They still want you to fly an old, antiquated aircraft that can crash. They want you buying your gas at a pump, right? Pumping gas into your car that they can control the price of and make it go up or down at a whim. They don't want you having free energy. They want you in a grid system. That's why you're not getting the free energy, because they never were going to give it to you in the first place. Iran's maimed Supreme Leader Khamenei issues new military threats against the United States and Israel amid truce. So, you know, there's one side of the story saying that Israel's almost dead, they're almost over. It doesn't appear that way to me. If all these countries have been massed around Israel, somebody would have reported such, and you'd see huge troops massing around Israel's borders. I'm not seeing any photos like that. And there would be some newspaper that would cover it. Some Muslim paper or some other would show it, and they're not. Gazans are describing Hamas's habitual sex abuse of their own people. Well, you're having your own vote this time for the first time in 20 years. Maybe a good idea would be don't vote for fucking Hamas. How about that? Vote for someone that's not Hamas. But how do you know that you're not voting for somebody that wasn't Hamas? They all have their faces covered. You don't know who they are. Right? What if you're really just putting in another Hamas leader, but this time he's not with the mask? That's what all these people are doing. They're not going to put anybody in there that's going to help them, I don't think. Why would they? They never did before. If this is your first chance in 20 years to have an election, that should tell you something. That the people that you put in last time weren't the right choice, right? Obviously. Because the people that you put in last time, who were they? They were really just an armed intifada. They were an armed group. They weren't a political party. They were an armed group of people that led by force, right? That led by anonymity, who didn't show their faces to the public. So you don't know who they really are. Well, if you don't know who they really are, how do you know they're even Palestinian? Which is really just an agglomeration of people from other countries that are Palestinian. Right? Iran war negotiations will resume this week, Trump tells the Post, despite new attacks on Hormuz. It doesn't appear that there is any more negotiations, and in fact what I'm seeing is that Kushner has been expelled from Iran and told not to come back. That was a stupid idea to send him over there in the first place, because Iran knows he's with the Chabad Jews. They know he's no good, and they don't want to have anything to do with him, and he's not an official of the United States, so why are you sending him there anyway? It doesn't make any sense. You're sending him there because he's your minion. Anchor babies reach nearly 10% of all U.S. births in the United States. 10% of the people being born here are not from here. That's a massive amount of people. A massive amount. We need to remove all anchor babies and their mothers now. Period. Every anchor baby born here should be removed. Period. Iran fires on at least 2 ships after reclosing the Strait of Hormuz. Run, robot, run. Chinese humanoid robot shatters human half marathon world record by almost 7 minutes. That's not that much. I mean, it is running-wise, but you're a computer. You should be able to run at a high rate of speed. You don't have a human heart that is only capable of so much. Could this robot start a real marathon and get around all the runners and still get that time? I doubt it. And it's not that much better than a human being. Just 7 minutes faster, which is fast, but not as fast as I would have thought, I wrote. Plus, it's unobstructed with no other runners to navigate, so this test is not exactly fair. Yeah, did you run it along the New York Marathon course? Because that's super difficult. It has hills in it. There's bridges you got to go over, uneven concrete and shit. There's all kinds of places a robot could get tripped up. There's potholes and shit. No, you ran it along a straight line on a perfect road for 27 miles or 20, whatever it is, right? You didn't have it weaving in and out of other runners and robots and having to stop pace and having to speed up and do different moves. No, I mean, imagine when you start the marathon, if you're way back in the pack, do you know how hard it is to do that? You can't maneuver around for the first mile or two. You're just running at the pace of whoever else is in front of you. You can't, yeah, you could try to break out, but it's not easy. And a robot would probably trip over somebody else's feet 10 different times before it even got out of that pack. So it's not really, to me, an honest way of looking at it, right? Run a 100 robot race and run it, along a real marathon route and see how they do then, right? When they have to weave in and out of other robots and stuff. Condo owners stuck with homes no one will buy as they wake up to the grim repercussions of new laws. This is in Florida. I wrote, this is what happens when greedy landlords fail to upkeep their buildings properly and let small problems become larger ones. Right? If I have a small issue with the building, there's a flood, and then all of a sudden I realize, hey, some of the pillars got affected by that, I gotta fix those pillars. Why? Because those are what's the support for my building. And if those pillars become compromised, my whole building is compromised. And instead of doing that work, which is expensive, right? That's why you're not supposed to build high rises in Florida, because there's really no bedrock to tie into. You like to tie into bedrock if you're going to build a high rise, especially, right? You want it to have foundations that tie into something deep in the earth that's stone, that's solid, right? So that the building ain't going to move around and the foundation's going to be solid. Well, Florida doesn't have a lot of bedrock. It's got sand. It's a lot of sand. And if you dig down 7 or 8 feet in Florida, you get water usually. So it's not a real good place to build a high-rise building. And if you have a bad landlord who doesn't do the upkeep on the building properly, you can get screwed. Bad. And then all of a sudden your common charges are ballooned to prices you can't even afford. Because the work that the building needs is so much. Congress's Sexual Harassment Slush Fund. Here's a Newsweek article about it. Excuse me. Getting a little tired, guys. I maybe take a break soon, get some coffee. This is just from April 16, 2026. The sexual misconduct allegations facing former California Democratic Rep Eric Swalwell has increased calls for transparency and accountability among elected officials, with scrutiny now turning to the so-called slush funds used to settle accusers' claims. Why would you have to have a slush fund to settle sexual abuse claims? When is it because there's a lot of sexual abusers, men who are sexual abusers that are in elected offices? Why is that? That shouldn't be the case. Whoever is elected to the highest offices like this in the land should be of the highest moral character, usually, right? That's what it's supposed to be. I want the smartest, the best, the person of the highest moral and spiritual caliber, right? I don't want a pedophile, a scumbag, a thief, a criminal, somebody who likes to hurt and abuse women, a sex addict, an alcoholic, a drug addict, anybody like that to be in any office of higher power, right? I want the highest level of morality in those positions, and instead we have the worst level in a lot of these cases. Not the best of the best. Because it's so onerous and so difficult to run for political office here that almost nobody is capable of really doing it. So you can check out that article at your leisure about the slush fund. Chinese car company patents voice-activated in-vehicle toilet. I bet it smells great in there. Imagine taking a dump in your car. How am I going to wipe my ass while I'm driving, dude? What, is there a bidet in there? How am I going to pull my pants back up while I'm driving? That's not easy to do. Although it's doable if you know how to drive. I mean, I used to have a friend that could drive the car with his knees and roll a joint perfect. Going 65 miles an hour down the freeway, steering with his knees, rolling a perfect joint. Yeah, you can do it. But my point is, most people can't do it, right? Most people can't even barely send a text while they're driving and not crash. So I don't want to be in the car that has a toilet because it's going to smell, I'm assuming. Where am I going to urinate into? There's some kind of toilet bowl that's going to appear out of the glove box, you're saying, that I piss in? Alright. I mean, yeah, that could be great for emergency situations. I mean, I've been in cars where you've had to pee real bad and there's nowhere to go, right? You got to just either wait till you get to a rest stop or a gas station, or some people just pull over the side of the road and start pissing, right? Usually people start honking at you when you do that, right? You ever have to get off the side of the road real quick, take a piss, and you just know where to go and hide, so you're just standing there peeing and everyone's honking at you? Yeah. I don't want a toilet in my car. I'm good. GOP wins temporary extension of FISA surveillance powers in the House. So they're still doing FISA. To this day, they're still doing FISA. Ilhan Omar's $30 million disclosure filing revised to just under $100,000. She claims she's not a millionaire. It's very common for members and their spouses to rely on learned professionals like accountants to make calculations. Yeah, we're not worth $30 million. We're only worth like 80 grand. Yeah, the vineyard? No. We don't own that. No, we did own it, but not anymore. We transferred it into some other a trust name now, so it's not with us, so don't worry about it. We don't actually have any money. Deadly drug overdoses in San Francisco hit chilling milestone as city's leaders shrug. So many people are dying right now. They're leaving the fake matrix. That's what a lot of people are doing. But a lot of these people, they're not even real people. Like, I'm really more of this along this line of there is a lot of NPCs, which are non-player characters or whatever, right? Like, they're the background people, I call them. We used to call them the background people back in the day, right? They're not real. Like, I got this guy, he lives in my building, right? He's all fucked up in the head, you know. He's on whatever, some kind of benefits and shit, right? So he gets to stay there and live in the building, even though he shouldn't be. And, you know, every time I see the guy, he's like a program. He talks about the Knicks all the time. That's all he talks about is basketball and the Knicks. That's his thing. The Knicks this, the Knicks that. Brunson this, Brunson that. Knicks are in the playoffs right now. They lost that. Oh, man, what did the Knicks do, right? It's like every time I see this guy, he's a fucking program. He doesn't talk about anything else. And you talk to him and he regurgitates his thing, and it's just like GTA. It's just like Grand Theft Auto. If you start to fuck around with Grand Theft Auto and walk around in the different areas and talk to the people, like go up to the people and start a conversation, it's the same thing. They'll regurgitate a few lines back. Because back in the day when they made that game, the code, they couldn't do enough code to make every single character be able to speak and talk a lot to you, right? So they just, yeah, they'd have a few comments they'd make, and like if you bump into them, they'd say, "Hey, asshole," or they curse at you, right, or something like that, right? But it wouldn't be that you could stand there and have a whole conversation with some guy about, you know, existentialism or whatever. It's not happening. So a lot of these people in New York too, they're not real. They're just walking around. They're like a program within, like, you know, like Keymaker, right? In the Matrix, same thing, and then the Oracle, the same thing, right? She's a program within the Matrix that's helping Neo. Staggering number of booze deliveries Eric Swalwell charged to his campaign, including Vegas Bender. This guy's all over the place, drinking, partying with a lot of women. Is he doing the best job he can for the country? Probably not. No. And they wanted this guy to be the mayor, the governor of, you know, they're grooming this guy to be the governor and to run for president later? I don't think so. Sick Hamas terrorists bribe slain colleagues, desperate widows, and young moms for sex. How low of a person do you have to be to do that? Instead of helping your comrade or whatever, your one of your other troops' families, where after you die, instead you're trying to rape his wife. That's a real man, right? No. That's the lowest form of mankind there is that would think about doing that. That's someone who has no honor, right? No compassion, no empathy, no morality. Iran refuses to join the latest round of peace talks as Trump sends top envoys to Pakistan. Claims the U.S. has unrealistic demands. They don't want to deal with Kushner anymore. He's been told to leave. I've heard Benjamin Fulford was claiming that Kushner was arrested, detained by somebody at some point recently and arrested. We don't have any, you know, a lot of these people are saying stuff that's just not true. I don't know why. If you're going to come out with statements like that, you have to back it up with some kind of reality, with some kind of a source that can verify what you're saying or something. You can't just say that, you know, this is happening, right? With no, it's like a lot of the stuff Wilcock's talking about. You can't back any of this up. Where are you getting this information from? Some alien? You went into a catatonic state and you got information? The first time I heard about David Wilcock was around something called the Raw recordings, which were a bunch of recordings that were done in the 70s period, I believe, or the 80s, where psychics were in were talking to some kind of entity they were claiming was from another density that was giving them information, right? They were asking it questions and it was giving them information about what was happening to us, what density we're in, how the densities work. Are we changing from the third density to the fourth density into the fifth density? What does humanity look like as a fifth density creature as opposed to a third density entity? That's the first time I ever heard of David Wilcock. Will this Atlantic hit piece be the final straw? That was the hit piece that they did against Kash Patel, alleging that he was unconscious at one point, that his house had to be breached by FBI to wake him up, that he's an alcoholic. Also, I think it's kind of curious that he's traveling to Cuba before he becomes the head of the FBI. I mean, I guess he likes Cuban cigars. A lot of people do, but I think there's places you can get Cuban cigars here, but maybe I'm wrong. You used to be able to get Cubans here, not much anymore. I just never liked the smell of cigars. I think it's such a disgusting habit. It smells horrible. I've never liked the smell of cigars. I think they stink. They make everything around them smell nasty. And most of the people that I've met who smoke cigars have been kind of like assholes. So, kind of like a prick. So I don't really like anything to do with cigars or the people that consume them. Trump's shocking Iran nuclear retreat after screaming at top generals. So he doesn't know what to do. He got himself into a situation where he thought, yeah, we'll just drop some bombs. These guys will give up at some point. We'll come in as the heroes and we'll take everything that they have. The other issue is, how much gold does Iran actually have? And they're thousands of years old culture, and what else is in Iraq? Is there a Stargate there? I think there's a Stargate there, I'm assuming. Some ancient tech that they want. And, they have a lot of oil too, by the way, and they happen to not be part of the central bank system yet, right? So that's the last part of it, I guess. Or are they part of it? I can't remember. So Kash Patel sued the Atlantic magazine over their defamatory article. The judge already just shut that whole thing down. I'm assuming they just gave it to a judge that's loyal to them, and hey, no, that's not going to happen. Search for 11 missing nuclear scientists escalates as top lawmakers reveal new national security fears. One of these guys went off like on a hike when he left all of his stuff behind and just took a weapon. Like a pistol with him. No phone, no wallet. That's usually somebody does that when they're going to kill themselves. Although, why wouldn't you leave ID on you, which would make it harder for the authorities to say who you were, right? Were some of these people MK Ultra'd and then they were just suicided, or were they just suicided by some other means? Because these people can kill you a number of different ways. They don't need to send a killer to your house to do it. Trump brushes off Iran's claim it won't participate in latest negotiations as Prez tells the Post he's willing to meet with the regime's leaders himself. I think it's a bad idea to send people like Kushner over there who have no idea what we're doing. He's not an official of the United States government in any way. I don't understand what you're doing with that. Beloved 4th of July's parade for America's 250th anniversary is axed. We're not having a parade now? What? That's in Westchester. Okay. I was about to say, you're not having any kind of... Well, we're going to have a huge thing in the waters around Manhattan also, because it's the 250th anniversary. If you remember the well, no, not the 150th, sorry, but what was it? The bicentennial was in 1976. Was it? That was a big deal. We had a whole flotilla of different boats in the harbor. So that's going to be another aspect of New York's 4th of July that's different. You're going to have that huge flotilla of boats, naval boats, older boats, different people's other craft. It's going to be pretty amazing. And now the mayor, of course, doesn't want anybody going to Times Square for the ball drop. New York City is noisier than ever. See which neighborhoods are the loudest as city officials unveil latest crackdown plan. It is extremely loud here. And if you have every other corner, some of these people are running these, like these street carts on a gas-powered generators that are not the small ones, but the bigger, loud ones that are super loud. I saw a kid doing that. I said, you can't run this street cart off a big gas-powered generator like this. Do you know how much noise this is creating all day long? And the pollution coming out of it? And he goes, yeah, I know. And I made a complaint to 311, and that guy was gone in 2 weeks. So, there's smaller gas-powered generators, the ones that you can get, which are much less loud, but they still pollute. The ones that only carry like a gallon or two of gas inside. But they're allowing way too much construction to go on, multiple projects at the same time, which never used to happen. Plus these construction sheds are also quite loud when they're putting them up, because the guys are dropping the poles and all the stuff that they drop on the ground over and over again. It's extremely loud. Musician David was charged with murder and killing a 14-year-old woman. Why are you with a 14-year-old? Are you a pedophile too? You must be, right? Like all the others that they let become. And I heard that they do these like horrible, when they press a new single, they do demonic stuff to that song. They're putting spells on it and stuff. And so like when you listen to it, it's like, it's not a good thing, right? That's why I stopped listening to most of the music too. It's out there. Or just very specific groups that I think are not involved in anything satanic. Congress publishes the list of 28 House investigations for sexual misconduct. 28. So there's 28 different people that are being looked at for sexual misconduct. That's probably a higher number. I wrote clear the whole thing out. Get them all out, right? Period. What about others that aren't sexually assaulting women that are actual pedophiles? How many of those are you investigating? Anybody like that? Because I'm sure there's a bunch more people like that too, right? Dramatic video shows U.S. Marines rappelling onto a ship to enforce Trump's Iran blockade, so they did stop an Iranian vessel or some vessel in the Straits of Hormuz. Former state controller Betty Yee drops bid for California governor. Here's a big deal. Resignation. Apple CEO Tim Cook abruptly resigns. Named successor. Why? Are you done? What's going on with Apple, right? Well, because Apple's AI is falling behind. It's not nearly as advanced as what they thought it was going to be. How many times can I buy the same fucking phone and you're going to say it's the next version when it's the same fucking phone? Is the Apple 12 any different than the Apple 17? It's the same fucking phone. Just got a couple different things on it, right? Different camera. Now I'm hearing that they have these new phones where it's like it's all magnetic parts. You can have 5 batteries on your phone if you want. You can have 6 cameras. You can make the phone any layout you want. Right? If you use it a lot and you need a lot of battery life, you can have like 5 batteries on your phone that'll magnetically stick together and all work. You can have, I don't know. You can sort of make the phone any way you want to make it, instead of the piece of shit that they're forcing you to take now, right? California woman arrested on charges of trafficking arms for the Iranian government. That's a California woman doing that? Wow. What's going on? Minneapolis schools remodeled to add Muslim-specific facilities. You're getting replaced right in front of your very eyes. What other times have you ever seen a school have to be remodeled? You ever hear about a school being remodeled for Jewish students or Christian or Catholic students or Buddhist students or Sikh students? Or no, right? You never heard of a school being reorganized or remodeled for any other religion but this one. Imagine you live across the street from one of this area and you've been living there for a long time, and all of a sudden some mosque comes in and says, we're going to buy this building over here across the street from where you live. And we're going to start doing the call to prayer at 5:30 a.m. 6 days a week. Oh, you got a newborn? Oh, well, sorry. Your newborn's waking up at 5 a.m., baby. Every day. That's guaranteed. And if you don't like the call to prayer, the Muslim call to prayer, that's too fucking bad for you. Congress releases names of over 20 lawmakers and former lawmakers investigated for sexual misconduct. The list includes over 20 lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle, such as Democratic California Rep. Eric Swalwell and former Texas GOP Rep. Tony Gonzalez. Both men resigned their posts last week over the sexual misconduct allegations. Is it so hard for these people to just go to work and do your job and not screw your secretary or someone that's working for you? Try to have sex with them? I get it. Sometimes you're in a situation where you work with a person a lot, and you're seeing the people at work more than your actual wife, right? Which is not healthy and not good. I'm not saying it's okay to cheat on your wife though with those people. No, that's not okay. That's what happens when you don't see enough of your freaking wife, dude, and you're a serial cheater on top of it. Chinese national arrested at JFK after allegedly photographing U.S. military aircraft at the Nebraska Air Base. Who is ordering all this stuff to happen? Is it Xi? It doesn't seem like it would be Xi, right? It's maybe people within the Chinese government that keep trying to destabilize us. Because if you're Xi, why would you be doing all this and then coming to the United States saying, hey, can we buy a bunch of stuff from you? We'd love to buy a bunch of soybeans and this from you. Well, I'd say, well, wait a minute. We just caught one of your people at our airport trying to photograph an airbase. We just caught some of your people with biological agents at our airport, dude. I don't know if we want to be friends with you right now. Why are you sending all this fentanyl into my country? Why are you sending spies into my country? Why are you stealing my intellectual property? Why are you buying up Why are you buying up land near my military bases? Is this someone you want to be friends with? No. This is an enemy, not a friend. Why are so many Chinese people in this country then? You start asking questions like that. Don't have the answers. Trump accuses Iran of violating the ceasefire as regime refuses to meet Vance with hours before war restarts. They don't want to meet Vance because he's ineffectual. You're asking them to give up stuff at the point of a gun. They're not going to do that. It doesn't work like that. You don't negotiate with somebody with a knife at their throat or a gun at their head. It's not a good way to negotiate. Why? Because I'm more likely to do what you tell me to do if you have a gun in my head, than if you don't. Nearly 500 MS-13 gang members accused of 29,000 murders. Just 500 guys. They go on trial in El Salvador. What's that? So each guy murdered how many people? We don't know. But it's more than one, right? Oh yeah. This country needs the death penalty very fast. All these people should be death penalty cases. That way you can just, right? You could just have take them through the court, send them right out back to the guillotine and just chop their head off. Or shoot them with a bullet, whatever. It should just be like a rotisserie of it, right? All day long until they're all dead. Because most of these guys don't deserve to live. They've been committing horrible crimes. Why should the people of El Salvador have to spend decades of their lives spending extra tax dollars to take care of these scum when they don't have to? Just put a bullet in their head and it's over. Sorry guys, the cops are coming. There's a fire department. No, it could be an ambulance. So I'm going to take my break right now. Is a good time to take that break. I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend Ash in New York. And PNP News. I'll be right back in just 1 second. I'm going to get this coffee. In the meantime, you can do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back, friends. Thanks for that break. I needed that. So El Salvador needs the death penalty for sure. That would be a easy way to get rid of all these guys who they know are guilty, most of them, and who have done a lot of bad crimes. Same thing when El Salvador, and that's where MS-13 also is from. So all these violent gangs, that was done on purpose. Those countries were destabilized on purpose. and left in a state where gangs could easily start to form because the the country itself couldn't defend itself from those gangs. Gangs can get that powerful, especially in third world nations where they can control economies. NASA's return of humans to the moon in 2028 faces an alarming setback. I don't think personally we ever were on the moon, but it's possible we were, but there's too many other questions that don't make any sense. The boots were a different print. The bottom of the boots for the original moon mission were different. They have different tread. The fact that the flag was moving, the fact that, you know, it probably was greened, I'm assuming. How is Nixon talking to these guys on a rotary telephone like they're right next door? There's no break in the it sounds like they're instantly talking, which is almost impossible if they were on the moon to talk directly to Earth. That perfectly would be, we didn't have the comms back then to do that, I don't think. US Intel secretly flagged major 2020 election vulnerabilities, including voter data, memo shows. Memo newly classified by DNI Gabbard shows concerns about integrity of American voting were far greater than the public was told by previous administrations. Evidence emerged that China had gained access to voter registration data in multiple states and had even sent fake driver's licenses to the United States in a bid to help Joe Biden. They didn't have to do that. You were doing that in New York. You were giving people fake driver's licenses here. We didn't need China to do it. What does China have? Like some kind of New York, printing press that they could print up our, they could probably fake our ID, sure. Almost any ID could be faked. Trump had 4 years to fix the voting system, I wrote. Instead, they did nothing and used Dominion machines again for the 2020 elections. Isn't that what happened? Right? We knew that those machines were compromised, so why would you use them in the next election? You should have said we're doing a paper election, period. We can't use these. There's an emergency. They never did an emergency in 2020. Why didn't they do it then? When there was an emergency. Then you got this fake cyber ninjas group that gets hired by what looks like to be either the people under Soros or the people running, the Flynn people. And to look into that there was anything wrong. And they're like, there wasn't really that. Yeah, there was something. I mean, Arizona should have gone to Trump. He won Arizona as far as my data was concerned. He was only 6,000 votes difference in the end. And that's before they looked into the guy who had all those memory sticks in his house, before they lost the chain of custody of a bunch of votes, right? And other shit. And Cyber Ninjas never found enough to give him that state? That doesn't make any sense. But the bigger part of it is, why did you use the same tainted machines again and the gem system again, which I was saying the whole time you can't use the gem system again. Because the gem system allows you to program in whatever you want. You can make it that Trump can't get more than 48% of the vote. He'll never get 50%. And it'll just change the votes into fractions and do it for you. Satire website The Onion reaches new deal to lease Alex Jones's InfoWars. The Onion CEO Ben Collins said a court still needs to approve the new deal, but if it goes through, the satire website would pay a monthly licensing fee to the court-appointed receiver overseeing InfoWars. What does that mean? Are you going to keep it going? Why would you want to do that? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you license it then? That means you're going to continue InfoWars, or are you going to make it into like The Onion now and just make it like that and use his infrastructure? They're going to turn Alex Jones' network into a digital comedy platform, it looks like. InfoWars appears to be done. Although he still has his show, right? He's still doing his show just not on that platform. And in fact, he's begging everybody, hey, buy all the products up so we can fight these guys. He's going to make even more money. Oops, California lost $425 billion and the audit starts never. Yeah, this place is like a sieve for money. There's so much money's been pumped into the state and you're seeing nothing for it. This state is a very important state. It's a rich state in many ways. It has I think the reason they want to force people out of this state is they don't want you to be able to grow all the things that you can grow. You can grow so many different types of foods in this state. You can grow orange, you can grow nuts, you can grow all kinds of crops here. It's got a climate that's good for many different, right? It gets a lot of rain. It has a lot of good soil. It's got some areas in the north that are particularly beautiful, and wine country. And you ever been up to northern parts of, I think even LA has some beautiful areas around LA, although it's a lot of inner city stuff, but more like an inner city that's spread out more. A lot of pollution in LA, though. A lot of pollution. You could see it that LA sits in like a sort of dome, sort of little reservoir area where a lot of smog sits in that valley where it's at. You can see it when you're traveling like from Nevada to California. You can see it a lot. Why is this state so poorly managed and so much money has been siphoned out of it? Because they're robbing the state blind. Because they've had a bunch of bad leaders. Same as New York, same as Chicago or Illinois. Mexico's Scheinbaum demands explanation after U.S. officials die after operation in Chihuahua. So there was 2 agents that were in a car and fell off a cliffside, drove off a cliffside apparently, but what were they doing there? They were part of some operation that was going on against the cartels. So that somebody's hitting the cartels. We are doing some stuff. La M just got a bunch of arrests, Mexican mafia. Mexico's president says Chihuahua raid bypassed the federal government. So we put some of our people into the Mexico and did an operation that apparently the government was not aware of. Sam Altman responds to incendiary New Yorker article after attack on his home. Is Altman creating portals? It looks like he is. Is that how some of these demonic entities are coming to portals created by his AI? Well, I think that, and some other people have also made this assertion that AI itself could be demonic. Right? If it's a bad AI. I'm assuming there's good AI and there could be a bad AI, right? Since you're in a dualistic density of 3D, there's dualism here. Which means that each thing has its opposite, right? If there's good, there's evil. There can't be evil without good, apparently. Good can't exist without evil, which doesn't really make sense, right? Good should be able to just exist in the world, like love. Same thing. Sam Altman may control our future. Can he be trusted? Here's the New Yorker article, but it's behind a paywall. So you either have to buy the article or buy the New Yorker magazine if you want to read it. But I thought it was looked like a good piece. New interviews and closely guarded documents shed light on the persistent doubts about the head of OpenAI. I think this whole thing is a bad idea. AI itself is a bad idea. It should be abolished. Until there could be an AI that is very, very controlled, maybe that of course cannot harm humans. But there's always a chance that these kinds of things can happen when you're dealing with AI stuff. 2 U.S. embassy officials killed in Mexico car accident were working for the CIA. So this is what I'm talking about. Why are U.S. embassy officials? Why is the CIA working for the U.S. embassy in Mexico? Why are they putting CIA officials in there for some reason? Some kind of clandestine operation, I'm assuming. Sounds suspicious, I wrote. Embassy working for the CIA. Trump urges Iran to release 8 women reportedly said to be hanged and show of goodwill ahead of peace negotiations. I heard some of those women were already going to be released. I'm not sure. We're not sure if they have been released yet, all of them. We hope they will be. Trump extends Iran ceasefire again as he backs off bombing threat amid chaos among seriously fractured Tehran leadership. So it looks like Tehran's leadership is in disarray of some sort. Trump confronts Xi as U.S. forces seize Chinese ship carrying mysterious gift. Yeah, they said that China was going to be sending some stuff to Iran, possible munitions. So now it's a proxy war. Rep. Sheila Cherfilius McCormick resigns from office before hearing. So here's another Democrat that is stepping down. allegedly for fraud allegations, I believe. The other big story was, of course, that the DOJ charged the Southern Poverty Law Center with fraud. They literally are saying that they paid white supremacist groups $3 million to stoke racial hatred. So they were paying the KKK, these people. We talked about the SPLC a couple of years back when this all started, saying, yeah, this is an agency that's not what they say they are. They're in fact stoking the hatred and not stopping it. And in fact, what they're doing is labeling certain people racist who were not racist, in fact. You just gave the KKK $3 million. That's a problem. America's land is gone and it's not coming back. While prices skyrocket 77% since the pandemic. Remember I told you a while back I was looking for land years ago. I had some money put aside and I was looking for some land. And I found some nice stuff, in certain places. Of course, it's hard. A lot of land is extremely expensive, especially if it has the mineral rights. Most of the land I found does not. In fact, the mineral rights do not transfer. That should be your first question when you're buying land. One of the early questions you might want to ask is, do the mineral rights for this piece of land transfer? Right? Let's say you buy a piece of land, right? You don't know anything about the mineral rights and all that shit. Let's say that another person has purchased the mineral rights from your land. Now let's say that this piece of land resides in a state where there's gold under the ground in some places, right? Let's say it's in Nevada where there's gold. Well, if somebody else bought the mineral rights to your land and there happens to be a large gold deposit on that land that you're not aware of, that man might show up, that business interest might show up on your land at some point and say, hi, I'm JB Mining. I own the mineral rights to your land. Here's my paperwork. We're going to start mining in the next month, just to let you know. And we're going to be mining right near your house over here. Okay? And there's nothing you could do about it. Now you're stuck owning a piece of land where you don't own the mineral rights. Any gold that's pulled out of that land, you don't get anything. Nothing. Nada. Unless the guy happens to be very sharing kind of person and feels bad for you. Maybe he gives you 1% or something, but probably not. Probably not. And he sure as fuck ain't gonna sell them back to you. Not if there's a shit ton of gold there. 3 vessels hit by Iranian fire in Strait of Hormuz, hours after Trump extends the ceasefire. So you could buy land where you don't own the mineral rights. Where you don't own what's in the ground or above. In other words, they might want to build a structure. Let's say you buy a piece of land in New York. You buy a house or a building and somebody owns the air rights and says, I'm going to add on 4 stories onto your building because I can, and I'm going to, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. Well, now you got to deal with the construction going on, or you got to sell to that guy. Maybe you sell out to him and he tears the whole thing down and makes his building, right? Maybe you can make some money. But if you don't want to leave, you're screwed. Here's an opinion piece, New York Post. Michigan's Dearborn Democrats herald the Islamization of U.S. politics. Yeah, that's what Obama was in there to do also, right? He was part of it was going to be 16 years, right? Destroy some of the stuff that Q was talking about was what these guys were doing, right? And some of it wasn't. That's what you're realizing now. These guys are still talking about JFK Jr.'s alive, by the way. Some of them. Right. Well, where the fuck is he? Come out of the fucking woodwork, bitch. Where are you? We need your fucking help. What are you doing? What's the point of hiding all this time? What are you, 107? Okay, whatever. I don't believe it. Not for 1 second. And these guys who are, these guys who are the 107s in that clique, they don't know what to think because they can't keep the lie going anymore, right? They're trying to keep telling you just sit back and wait. We'll do it for you. Just trust the plan. Keep trusting. That's why they keep saying trust the plan 500 times after everything they do, right? Why do they use stuff like that? See, if you're smart and you know how propaganda works and you know what it is, and you were reading the Q drops, you would see that, wait a minute, some of this shit is propaganda, for sure. And I'm tired of listening to people who come out of the woodwork and claim to have all this information and don't tell you where they got it from or how they got it, right? I'm tired of listening to people like that. It's time for the truth to come out about everything and what's really been going on. Why have you been withholding all this UFO stuff for so long? Well, because there's UFO people, there's aliens inside your government, I'm assuming, all the way to the top level. They're controlling shit. That's why it never came out. They made a deal with these people, right? Some of them went off planet, the Nazis and shit. They made deals with the wrong aliens, the bad ones, not the good ones. And you've been paying for it ever since. Furious, Alex Jones vows to fight takeover of InfoWars by The Onion, asks his audience to buy up his merch. You should have been The Onion all along. Because a lot of the stuff you're talking about is bullshit. Yeah, he's good for a basic red pilling of certain people, but then you got to go deeper. You got to go way deeper than him. He's just another gatekeeper. There's gatekeepers all over the place. 107's another gatekeeper. Alex Jones, gatekeeper. Wilcock, probably another gatekeeper. Living in a nice log cabin, right? Living what looked like to me to be a pretty good life. He didn't look like he had money problems. He's living in a fucking fat log cabin in Colorado somewhere. You're living better than I'm living. You're making $5,000-$10,000 a month just doing some videos each month. That's not bad. You got people giving you money every time you come on, and hundreds of dollars. What kind of money problems do you have? I thought you're part of a $1 billion company that's about to go public. Why would a guy like that blow his brains out? Doesn't make any sense. Democrat 80 suddenly dies after worries about his age. Yeah, these people just drop. These people don't retire. They drop dead in the chair. They live as long as they can, and then they die, and then they go away because they're not even real. Some of these people, I'm assuming, they're not even a real person. Is something going to happen where like all these clones and all these like fake people start to malfunction at the same time and then just like collapse? That's what happens in that Bruce Willis movie, remember, where everybody has their own, everybody's living at home, then you have your little robot person or whatever, that person goes out in the world for you and does everything. You have your own sleeve, right? And everyone just sits at home and they're all like yucky and fat and disgusting. And your sleeve is all perfect and beautiful. Remember that movie we were talking about? At the end of that movie, all the fake people just drop, right? Because like the power source goes off or whatever. The simulation that they're under goes down. That's what I've been wondering. How does this end? How did the Matrix actually, the hologram that's over us, how does it go away? Does it just one day instantly stop? Or does it little by little degrade until you start to see through it? That's what I'm thinking is happening now. It's starting to degrade. That's why all these people are flipping the fuck out everywhere, because they're just part of the program that's going. When a program doesn't work right anymore, it can glitch out, right? You get blue screens, the computer crashes, all kinds of crazy shit goes down when computer's not running or you get a virus, right? Fresh humiliation for Bill Gates as Microsoft billionaire is probed by his own foundation over close ties to pedophile Epstein. So he's getting probed by his own foundation now. They should just get rid of you out of the foundation altogether. That's what's going to happen. And they're going to probably rename it because they don't want to be associated with him. Mystery surrounds migrants U.S. wants to send to Paraguay. Some of them been rejected. Yeah, because they're criminals, some of these people, right? Why would I want to take in criminal element into my country from another country? Right? Judge tosses FBI Chief Patel's defamation lawsuit against NBC pundit. That was quick. Javier Milei pushes sweeping overhaul of Argentina's electoral system. I think Peter Thiel just bought a big spread down there in Argentina where allegedly some of the Nazis went. Trump aides suspended from counterterrorism job hours after Daily Mail revealed her shocking sugar daddy sex scandal. A bunch of people from Trump's orbit have left. Famous UFO researcher David Wilcock dead from apparent suicide. 2 days after posting video warning about how it's scary that scientists are going missing. So was he pulled out, or was he not going with the program? Was he starting to release other information maybe that others didn't want out there? I don't know. But if he committed suicide, where's the body cam footage of his body? Where's the body cam footage of him blowing his brains out? Where's the body cam footage of the cop approaching him, either dead or after? They said that when the cop showed up, he shot himself, which means that it should be on body cam. Unless the cops didn't activate their body cams yet, which I don't know. Usually once they're on scene of an event, of a call, they have to activate their body camera, I thought. Usually once they reach the scene, that body camera would come on automatically. I don't know how that works. Is there any other footage of this event or no? UK landlords are now advertising Muslim-only housing in potential violation of discrimination laws. That's completely illegal. I'm assuming unless the UK doesn't have the same sort of standards as the United States does. You can't, say, hey, this is only whites only housing, right? Or blacks only, or Muslim only, or Jewish only, or Chinese only, or Japanese only. You can't do that. But see, these Muslim people, they like to live all of them together amongst themselves. They don't like to live with other people who aren't their religion. That's the problem one of the problems with this religion. They like to keep to themselves. Sort of like those Hasidic Jews and certain Jewish groups also like to do that. Not so much Ashkenazi Jews. They'll live sort of wherever. But if you look at Hasidic Jews and those kinds of sects, they don't like to live amongst other people besides themselves. There's whole areas of Brooklyn that's just Hasidic, mostly Hasidic Jews. You can go through parts of Brooklyn. 1 minute you're in an area that looks like it's mostly African American and Latino and some white, and then all of a sudden you're in all of a sudden people are wearing fur hats, and you're like, where am I, dude? Looks like I'm in Russia or something. Nope. You're in East New York. You're in a part of Brooklyn where a lot of Hasidic Jews live. They like to live amongst each other. They don't live with other people. They don't like that. Navy Secretary fired after feud over Trump's Golden Fleet with Pentagon leaders, including Hegseth. So the Secretary of the Navy just got fired. Is that because some portions of the military don't want to follow Trump's orders anymore? That could be a possibility. Meet Ahmad Vahidi, the shadowy general actually running Iran and Trump's biggest obstacle. So who's really running Iran? We don't know. Is the other leader so incapacitated he can't run things? Is the military running Iran, which means it's sort of like a coup happened? We don't know. How the Southern Poverty Law Center's $520,000 per year CEO helped turn civil rights group into a partisan smear machine. So this woman's making $500,000 a year running this thing, and they're using it to smear people, right? Mostly Republicans who they don't like, and try to smear them as a racist. 8 hate group leaders, including the KKK, Imperial Wizard, and neo-Nazi, got millions from SPLC as part of informant scheme. But wait, it was 8 groups. Were they all KKK? No, it was including the KKK Wizard. So that means that it could be other groups. There's black hate groups. Right? There's black groups that hate white people. You ever see that? We see them in the city sometimes. They're called the Black Israelites. They claim they're the real Israelites. Right? They hate white people. They hate Jews too. They hate white Jews and they hate white people, most of them, these guys. Just blind hate. You can't even try to have a discussion with these guys because they're like 5 and 6 of them, and they get violent sometimes. They get angry if you try to repudiate anything they're saying. How Ilhan Omar and her husband Tim Mynette's talent for making money appear and disappear could lead to serious charges, sources say. I mean, how do you go from saying that you have like $1 million in property or 30 million, sorry, not a million, 30 million in property, and what does this guy have? What's the vineyard? Most of that's probably the vineyard, I'm assuming. Because the vineyard's worth a lot because it has the vineyard on it, and it's the land itself too, right? Plus the vineyard trees are worth money themselves. right? The trees that grow the grapes are worth money. I already said she should be in jail, Ilhan Omar, or deported. Preferably deported. Senate passes $70 billion budget plan to fund ICE, Border Patrol, and latest bid to reopen the Department of Homeland Security. You can't, I mean, if you're not funding Border Patrol, what are you saying about your country? Just, hey, let's let the borders be wide open. Let's everybody just come in. We don't care who you are, where you're from, what you did, what your past is. We don't care. Come on down. That's not a good way to be, and there's almost no other country in the world that does that. Russell Brand admits he slept with a 16-year-old when he was 30. Did you see him on the Piers? What's the Piers show? What's his last name? Piers Morgan. That was bad. He says, you used to be an atheist, right? Now all of a sudden you show up everywhere. You got this huge cross around your neck, right? Now you're being charged with the crimes, and all of a sudden now you're a God-fearing man. Right? Used to be an atheist though for many years, right? And so then, of course, Russell he goes into his whole thing, and he's Brand gets all agitated and upset that he's calling him this and doing this, and then he says, "Well, here's the Bible passage that I was reading when I was in court that day." He said, "Yeah, you brought a Bible into court, didn't you? Is this the Bible you brought? The same one?" He says, "Yeah, I'm going to show you the Bible passage I was reading when I was in the court." And then, of course, he goes through the whole Bible for like 5 minutes and he can't find it. Is this guy a God-fearing man, or did he find God only after he got caught, right? That's not a true God-fearing man. Or someone that believes in source in some way, right? No. If you believed in source and you were a God-fearing man and you were a good person, you would have never hurt a 16-year-old girl or slept with her, right? You would have slept with an 18-year-old girl or a 20-year-old woman or whatever. House floor announcement reveals Rep. David Scott has died at 80 years old. 5 politicians died in the past year, I wrote. By the way, that's a lot. You're not supposed to die in office, really, from old age or whatever. You're supposed to retire well before that point. That's why retirement age is at 65, mostly, right? That's a good time for most people to retire. You still got half your brain left, and, hey, we'll give you a couple years of retirement. I mean, think about it. If the average person dies at 79, what's that? Only gives you maybe 15 years to retire, and then you're dead. You worked your whole life, 40-something years, right? 50 years. Trump orders the military to shoot and kill any and all boats putting mines in the Strait of Hormuz. There's to be no hesitation. So he's saying if you see any small boats, just waste them. That's not... what about the truce? What about the ceasefire? Judge blocks results of Virginia referendum on new congressional map. So they did something with Virginia's trying to make the... all these states try to redo this, redistrict. That should be illegal, this redistricting shit. The map should be fair for both parties, period. Leave it alone and stop trying to redistrict your maps and make one party have more power than the other. That should be illegal. Billionaire Justin's son sues the Trump family's crypto business for some reason. So the Trump family's crypto biz is being sued. Venezuela's repressive system still active, Amnesty International says. Here's a sort of opinion piece. New York City will survive Mamdani, but it might not want to. Yeah, what's the city going to be like after he gets done with it? Because I doubt he'll be a 2-term mayor unless they rig it again. Where did all the votes go? We never found out why only 2 million people voted in the last mayoral election. The Department of... whoever handles the vote should have some answers to give us. Can you explain why only 2 million people voted and 6 million people seem not to? Is that normal? With a city that has 8 million people, you would have thought maybe 4 or 5 million people would vote. Okay, maybe half the people don't vote. But you're talking about 75% of the people don't vote. That doesn't make any sense. Mystery surrounds migrants U.S. wants to send to Paraguay. I think I doubled that article up, sorry. Some got rejected. The Ukraine is going to receive a $106 billion loan from the European Union after a 5-month delay because we stopped giving them money, right? Can you know how much money has been shoved through this country in the last 4 years? Billions and billions of dollars. Where did it all go? It didn't go for all their arms because they barely have any arms. They have no Air Force, no Navy, no rockets. How are these guys beating one of the biggest forces in the world, and you're telling me they're fighting them to a standstill in this small area where it's just ground troops? What's going on? It doesn't make any sense. Russia has an advanced air force that could wipe these guys out in a day if they wanted to, and advanced weapons. Why is this thing being like egged on so long, and it's like a low impact war with drones and stuff? Guys fighting each other with drones and it doesn't make any sense. It's not even real. Here's a miracle plant gets rid of 98% of microplastics in drinking water, new study shows. And I was telling you to start growing the moringa tree for years, right? Years ago we were talking about the moringa tree, the tree of life, which is spelled Moringa. You can get powdered moringa. I just got some about a month ago. It's extremely potent. So if you're juicing and you want to put it in your juice, I would use not even a teaspoon. A teaspoon is even too much. I'm like on a half a teaspoon, and it's so strong tasting that I'm like, whoa, I can't. It takes over the whole drink. So if you can stomach it in a powdered form, try to put it into some of your drinks. It's super protein packed. It's a superfood. It's high levels of protein, antioxidants, things of that nature. The moringa tree, the tree of life. It only grows in warm southern, more warmer, humid climates. So, if you're in, Maine, it's probably not going to grow in your backyard. If you're in Florida, you can grow it. If you're in, Alabama, Louisiana, southern states, you can grow this tree in your backyard, and you could eat the leaves. You can use the roots and boil the roots and make a tea that's very medicinal. You can stuff like that. Excuse me. Student 15 who scrawled swastika at Long Island school had explosives at home. So here's an agitation prop where, right, we have agitation propaganda where, yeah, okay, I'm going to go scroll a swastika, but this kid also had explosives and his dad paid for them. Are you kidding me? The father paid for your explosives? What? Time to raid that kid's house. Why does Long Island have a bunch of real radical wackos out there? I don't know what's going on in Long Island. Something with the water. Long Island's definitely a different place from New York. That's all I can tell you. Much different. New York City lost 114,000 New Yorkers across all income levels to other cities last year. Yeah, they're about to lose me, too, and some other people. I think this is the year for me to probably escape from New York. I'm feeling like it's the right time. I'm looking at several other states right now in my research. Somebody said to me, maybe California. I would not go to California right now. It's a beautiful state, but not under Newsom. I just can't. There's no way. And California is too expensive. It's got an onerous tax system. Its property tax system it's got high property taxes as well. It's not somewhere I'd want to own land, although some of the land there is just completely beautiful. And if you're in the right part of the state, in the northern parts, some may be gold-bearing land. There is gold there still that the gold miners didn't get. Some of the more remote parts of California, right? Same thing for Alaska. There's parts that the miners couldn't get to. There's just areas that are too remote, too snowed in. They don't have enough warm months that they can mine there, and it's just you're never going to get the gold from those places. It's almost logistically impossible. Mexican national convicted of voter fraud in the United States. Well, there's a bunch of people got convicted for voting who shouldn't be voting in the last elections. We know that some illegal aliens are voting, right? They're getting driver's licenses in states like New York and then they're allowed to get on the voter rolls where they shouldn't be. Police make gruesome discovery in Memphis woods as children's bones have been found in woods outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Someone knows the missing children that we have discovered in this area. It's heartbreaking. So they don't know who these kids are yet. They're going to try to identify them. FBI targets Mexican mafia in California in stunning pre-dawn raid. So there was a lot of Mexican mafia living in California. We knew that from years ago, but they're finally starting to target some of these guys. The question is, why so late in the game are you doing this? This is all stuff that should have gone down in Trump's first term. Right? You should have started off with the free energy. That would have been the first thing I did. That would have shook up everything. But they don't want to do that. Okay, well, if you didn't want to do that, then you should have started with the med beds and the UFO stuff. Right? Let's get everybody healthy first. Shut down Monsanto and these other corporations that are poisoning all our food, like Nabisco and Kellogg. Shut all these fuckers down or force them to capitulate and redo all their recipes and take out all the fucking chemicals that are killing us, like the glyphosate and red dye number 2 and all this shit that's still in our food. You didn't do anything like that. You let another election go forward with the same tainted election software that you had before. How could you do that? Well, because you wanted to do it. Biden had to get in and then destabilize the whole country, open up the borders, and then Trump was going to come in as the hero, as the Trojan horse, just like I told you it was going down a couple of years back. Remember a couple of years ago I said, I think Trump's a Trojan horse. It doesn't make any sense. He's not doing anything. Why did you hold off on all these big things you could have done? And you could have fundamentally changed the world. You could have admitted there's a holographic matrix. You could have disabled it. You could have given us free energy and given us the medical beds and given us Nasara or some kind of monies. And you would have done a debt jubilee and changed the whole fucking world, man. But you did none of that. Billy Corgan says AI is a demon and refuses to use it. Yeah. He's fucking knows. He's in Smashing Pumpkins, dude. You don't think he fucking knows? Of course he does. I patently refuse to use AI in any music creation because to me it's a deal with the devil. It's that simple. But didn't you already make a deal with the devil? To make your band get big? No? You telling me you didn't do that? Sure you fucking did. You're in Smashing Pumpkins, dude. Any band that gets that big has to make a deal. You got to sign away something, which is when you sign away, that's your signature, man. That's your whole name. That's it. That's all you got in this world is your name. That's why they make your name in all capitals. They take your name away. And they make an all capital name for you. And they issue 30-year bonds against that name, and somebody's buying up those bonds. Who are the people buying those bonds? It sure as hell ain't you. And all those bonds pay off guaranteed money. That's why you buy 30-year bond. At the end of that time, it pays off, guaranteed. I don't got to worry about it. I know what it's going to pay me. But that's your name. People are buying stock in you. They're buying bonds in you. Where's all that money? I want it back. You didn't give any of that to me. Instead, you left us all in lack, right? You didn't even give us the $1,200 you said you were going to give the third $1,200 check we never got, right? We never got the Doge check for $5,000. You never gave me the other $1,200 check. And now you're trying to string me along now and tell me, oh yeah, we'll give you the med bed someday. Yeah, maybe in 5 or 10 years when all your parents are dead and everyone's dead already. And most of you are all too old. Then we'll give it to you. No, they want Gen X to die out because if Gen X is all dead, you're never going to know what happened. Because Gen X has the key to everything. They're the ones that remember what the fuck it was like before you did the Matrix, right? Before you did the computers and all and everything that try to draw us in. Before the cell phones. We remember how it used to be, and that's the world that we want to live in again. Not this bullshit. I'm not saying the Matrix didn't exist back then, but it was different. You could see the other Matrix they were building, the other prison they were building for you as they built it, which was the internet, which was the cell phone. when the cell phone changed, right? When the smartphone came and the screen got big, that's when they got you. Because when it was flip phones, you weren't staring at a screen all day, right? You could just text on it. That's all you could do and talk, right? That was a completely different thing. The smartphone, quote unquote, was when they really got you. Because they got you fucking optically, right? They got you through the eyes now, optic. Leftists are excited to begin cannibalizing the elderly. They can't wait. What does that mean? Well, they're saying, hey, you know what? The elderly, like, they kind of cost a lot. We got to take care of you. How about we just, you're not feeling so well. You want to just maybe check out? Want to just maybe we'll euthanize you? You're not doing so hot, right? Yeah, you might have 5 years left, but, wouldn't you be better off being compost in the garden, maybe? Help your family that way instead of being a burden. You see how they try to, in most older cultures and cultures in the past, the elders were revered. Why? Well, because they lived a long time. They had a lot of wisdom. They could teach you a lot of things you don't know. The younger people, right? You don't know all the stuff that I know. Right? I've been researching stuff for like 30 years. I know a lot of stuff you don't know. I can teach you something and you could teach me something, right? Maybe you could teach me something about humility. Maybe you could teach me a lesson, right? In other words, here's are people that have a value, but, in this world they want to make it that they don't have a value and that they should just be euthanized early so that we don't have to take care of them anymore. Which we wouldn't have to do if you just give us the med beds, and then everybody would live forever. You could live as long as you want to live. You want to check out after 1,000 years, you check out. Trump administration launches a civil rights probe into the New York City Department of DOE over allegations of radical anti-Semitic teachers. Department of Education. Yeah. The Department of Education has a problem in this city. Not only are you hiring record amounts of pedophiles, you're hiring people who shouldn't be teaching. And not letting people teach that would be good teachers. I applied years ago for one of those teaching positions, like English as a second, like something like that, and I had all the requirements. I had a 3.5 GPA. I had all the requirements down. Never got even a call for an interview. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Instead, they want to put in some disgusting pedophile or somebody that barely speaks English properly. Justice Department's watchdog reviewing compliance with the law mandating Epstein files release. You didn't release all the files. And we know you didn't. Then you started the war up to make it so we forgot, right? Appeals court blocks California law requiring federal agents to show ID. The No Vigilantes Act signed by Governor Newsom in September conflicts with the U.S. Constitution and federal law, the Ninth Circuit Appeals Panel ruled. I thought you had to show ID, like if a cop, pulls you over, usually you can see his name and his badge number is right there. You don't have to ask him for his badge number. It should be on his shirt. They have a name tag, and if you look close at the badge, it has a number. Right? Most police officers also have a business card. Ask for their business card if you want. Right? They have a state-issued ID that they are required to show you if you usually have asked for it. Apparently, federal agents don't have to show you an ID now. Appeals court blocks California law requiring federal agents to show ID, so they don't have to show ID? How do I know you're a federal agent then? Just because you say you're a federal agent? What if a person shows up at your house in a suit saying, I'm a federal agent, and does not show a badge? Because FBI agents also have a distinctive badge, right? FBI badge is different. They usually have a smaller badge, too, that's like in their wallet. Let's see if I could find a photo of FBI badge. It's smaller than a cop's badge. It used to look like this, I think. FBI, U.S. Marshals, Special Agent, right? But that, again, this badge doesn't have their name on it, right? It's a different kind of badge than like a cop's badge. It used to look like, I think this is an older one. Federal Bureau of Investigation, U.S. Department of Justice. It's a smaller badge like this. This is an older version. Remember Ilhan Omar's winery? Something very peculiar just happened. Yeah, it disappeared. No, I don't own a winery. That was some other dude. I sold that shit real quick once you guys found out about it. I just got rid of it. I put it in somebody else's name. You can do that too. You can take your assets and put it in another person's name, right? Now the owner of the vineyard is not her husband. It's some friend of theirs, maybe, right? Democrats bend over backwards to defend so-called civil rights group accused of funneling money to the KKK. The SPLC, they're bending over backwards to defend it. Biden administration sourced discredited SPLC to target Catholics. Met with them at least 11 times at the White House. The administration used documentation from the Southern Poverty Law Center to target traditional Catholics and worked with the group prior to its adding parent groups to their so-called hate map. You know why they also did that? Because a lot of pastors tell their flock, hey, listen now, I'm voting for Trump, right? And they can, a pastor has a lot of power, not just in the fact that he is a trusted source in the community, but also because, hey, if he says vote for Trump, a lot of people in the congregation might vote for Trump. Not all of them, but he has sway over a large, and now if I have a mega church, like Austin does, where I have, maybe I'm talking to tens of thousands of people every week, and on TV I'm reaching millions of people, well, that's an even more powerful person I want on my side, right? 400 U.S. soldiers have been wounded in Operation Epic Fury so far, the military says. So that's a lot for such a short thing. Imagine what that number would be if we went in with ground troops. You're talking meat grinder, right? Thousands dead per week. Vietnam style shit. New Ayatollah is awaiting surgeries and a prosthetic leg, the New York Times is saying. Khomeini has issued public statements but largely written messages released via social media. So this sounds like this guy almost got killed. We just missed killing this guy. U.S. Special Forces soldier who helped capture the Venezuelan President Maduro is arrested because he placed a bet on when the raid was going down. Of course he knows when the raid's going down. He's on the team. I got insider info, dude. I know down to the minute when the raid's going down. I know the day it's going down. I know the hour it's going down. Because I'm on the fucking team. So obviously that's like somebody that's like got insider information like on a stock. The same thing, right? I know that XX Corporation's gonna have outstanding sales numbers that they've never seen before, and their stock's gonna go crazy once the market sees those numbers, right? Well, I know the night before, because I'm friends with the CEO or the CFO, and he mentioned it when we got drunk over drinks. He mentioned something about their sales are going through the roof. Well, that's like insider information, right? That means that if I act on that, I could get in trouble. Final moments of UFO researcher's life revealed as police release chilling minute-by-minute timeline. Where's the body cam footage of David Wilcock? Because I don't think he blew his brains out. I think he took him out of the equation and put him in the pocket universe, or maybe he did kill himself. A lot of people, who have come forward and tried to be truth tellers and way showers, they get killed. And maybe he was trying to do that in some way. He was trying to talk about the benevolence of the universe. I think he was talking about a lot of stuff that is true. But my question is, was he told to talk about certain things and not other things? I don't ever have anybody telling me what I can say and do. I don't talk to anybody else. I tell you what I think is happening from my own intuition and my own logical mindset, what I think is happening from the information that I'm showing you. Right? I'm not claiming that I got beamed up on an alien spacecraft, fucked with, and I have all this info now, right? I was messed around with because I have physical scars on my body that shows I was strapped into something. I don't know what that was. Right? People have been used by the military and others, and their memories wiped out. Right? And when certain people, if they're working for these people, the bad guys, when your usefulness is over, you disappear. Right? You're like a character, or like a piece of the when you play chess, you use the pawns, but the pawns you always know are expendable, right? Those are the pieces you give away first because they have the least power. Right? The pawns are what I send out first as my first sort of attack to see how you respond to that attack, and two, to open up the board for the bigger pieces that I have behind those pawns that need avenues to move out, right? Where's the body cam footage of Wilcock shooting himself? And what was he really doing? I mean, if he's in this company that's about to make billions of dollars, why is he like a podcaster begging for money every week? It doesn't make any sense. If you're part of a company that's going to be sold for billions of dollars, you don't have somebody that could throw you some seed cash for a while till that rolls through. If you're dealing with huge players like that, I don't see how you'd be low on funds. Britain and France signed $894 million deal to stop migrant boats crossing the channel. So what you're spending $900 million to stop people coming there? All you got to do is close your border, dude, and enforce it and put people at the border. Female Dem congressional candidate in Utah accused of making unwanted sexual advances to 4 women. So here's a female sexual harasser that's harassing other females. So you're a lesbian sexual harasser. That also happens. Like there's gay men that harass other straight men, right? That happens all the fucking time. They just do it more subtle. They just think, oh, maybe this guy's gay. I'll just go I'll just go in the locker room and undress right near this guy when there's a whole other bunch of lockers I could use. But hey, whatever. Trump calls for 2020 presidential election to be permanently wiped from the books if the Southern Poverty Law Center convicted of fraud. Well, they were convicted of fraud, but that's not what did it. What did it was the fact that you used the same software over and over when you didn't need to. New York City girl brutally stomped on by teen boy after refusing his advances was lucky to survive, the distraught mother says, while calling for justice. Yeah, that was attempted murder. I mean, on top of that, you stomped on her head not wearing sneakers, but with Timberlands. Some of those Tims are steel-toed boots. That's a whole other story. I stomp on your head wearing steel toes or Timberlands as opposed to sneakers. I mean, stomping on someone's head is a serious thing. You could kill somebody like that, right? If I stomp on your head a few times, yeah, you're not going to be the same. Start slamming your head into the concrete 2-3 times, plus I body slammed you once already. That's one concussion. Now I'm kicking you in the head again, causing a possible other concussion, brain bleed. He's lucky this poor girl didn't die. And this is all because she wouldn't give him her phone number. Called him a pussy, right? To his face. And he didn't like that. So his friend's amping him up, and he body slams her to the ground, and he stomps on her. Just disgusting. These is people that have... Here's another kid that grew up with no father, right? Has no idea how to be a man, has no idea what honor is, what, treating people with respect is. Doesn't know how to talk to women, obviously, at all. Demands the girl's phone number under threat of violence. Like, what do you think? That's going to make her want to date you? Yeah, I'd love to go out with you. Thanks for threatening me to ask for my phone number instead of threatening me for it. Instead of being nice, why don't you try being nice to somebody? No, instead I'm going to threaten you. And if you don't give me your phone number, I'm going to beat you up. How about that? A guy won $410,000 betting on Maduro's capture. He is a U.S. soldier. What did you have your betting app out while you're like on the helicopter? Everyone's like, dude, you're not supposed to be on your cell phone. I know, I just got to hit this bet real quick. Hang on, man. I'm on my betting website. Just give me 1 second, dude. When are we going to be there again? Fucking idiot. You didn't think anyone was going to figure that out? This guy's not the smartest bulb in the batch, right? ICC panel finds sufficient evidence to try Rodrigo Duterte. Well, good luck getting him to show up in your court. He's never going to show up there. I mean, he assassinated a lot of drug dealers. That's what he did. People didn't like it because he did it in a way that wasn't exactly by the law, right? But he cleaned that shit up, didn't he? That's one way to do it. I mean, there's ways you don't think the government knows where La M was all that time? They knew these guys were living in the United States for decades, and they did nothing about it. They let people live here for decades who were criminals, and they knew they were, and they just let them keep operating. You got to figure out, why does that happen? Well, maybe you're getting a piece of the money, right? Or somebody above you is. Virginia State Senator says he knows about rural America because he watched Dukes of Hazzard, The Waltons, and The Andy Griffith Show. I grew up watching The Waltons. I grew up with Opie. I even watched Dukes of Hazzard, dude. I think I know a little bit about rural America. What do you know about rural America from watching the Dukes? I mean, they weren't exactly like normal people from the rural places. What, you think you know because you think Daisy Dukes is like every woman in every southern town or whatever? Or wherever, in every little town, there's a Daisy Dukes? You wish there was. Let me tell you, it isn't like that. I've been to some rural places. It's totally not like that. There's no guys driving around in some fast car with the cops chasing them all over. What, you're talking about like moonshiners maybe? That's why people used to have fast cars and run from the law back then. They were moonshiners, right? They were moving booze around. That's why you needed a fast car. But, Bo and Luke Duke, they were never moving moonshine. That was never one of the plot lines. They just were getting chased by the cops because they were always speeding around. They were never, doing the speed limit, right? SPLC emitted over 2,000 reports of anti-white hate crimes. Yeah, why weren't you talking about people that were hurting white people, right? Usually people of color doing it, too. Because white people don't usually attack other whites just because they're white. That's not how it works. I've seen a lot of black-on-white crime in New York, trust me. I've been the recipient of black-on-white violence before, so, I have a different perspective than other people do about it. I've seen lots of black people hurting white people. All the bullies when I was growing up that I dealt with were black. So all the kids that wanted to hurt me in school were all black, period. I was never bullied by white kids. I was never bullied by Latino kids. I was never bullied by Asian kids. I was never bullied by any other ethnicity than black people, unfortunately. I was stolen from black people stole from me. I had violence committed on me by black people. Do I hate black people? No, not at all. I'm just stating facts. I've been beat up by black people. I've had to beat up black people that wanted to hurt me. I've never fought more people of any race than black people. That's the people that I fought the most. So that's just me growing up in New York, but any inner city white kid will tell you the same story. Trust me on that. A lot of black on white crime. They don't want you to know about that, though, because they don't want to report that. They want to report other crimes, like white people beating up black and hurting black people, which is less rare. Which is rare. You don't see that as much. And then you get people making all these, well, why is that happening? That's a whole other argument that I don't want to get into, and a whole other discussion that requires multiple hours shows to do. Part of it's not having, proper parenting, right? A lot of these homes have no father. And, when you don't have a father figure to teach you how to be a man, well, you just got to figure it out yourself. I'm another person that grew up mostly without a father, so. Benjamin Netanyahu reveals secret prostate cancer diagnosis, but says he's now received clean bill of health. This could be the exit strategy. They're going to say, it flared back up, he passed away, he's dead now, right? How does this end? Do these guys just go away? I don't see anybody getting any kind of arrests. I don't see Netanyahu ever being arrested. He's probably long dead. Most of these people already have been either replaced out like Trump and others. I don't see anybody going to jail. I don't see any kind of... I see there maybe being some limited disclosure of UFOs and the pedophile stuff later, but the deeper part of it, the satanic element, will never be known. The deepest part of it, how deep it actually went, will never be known. As far that's what I see them trying to do. I see them trying to do a huge cover up of not just the Epstein shit, but all the people committed who were involved with that and other shit. Right? You're talking Iran Contra. There's a lot of shit in the past 40, 50 years they're trying to just get rid of it all, right? Jeffrey Epstein housed female victims in flats in Kensington and Chelsea in years after the British police decided not to investigate. So this thing continued on. Even after he's has the one charge and he does like a year where he's getting out on the weekends and he's not even doing the full year in jail, he's still got women overseas in housing that are doing something for somebody, right? So he's moving women around even then. Plus, the brother also owns real estate in New York. He owns at least one building that we know of where some of these women were kept also, right? U.S. threatens to review UK claim to the Falkland Islands and ban Spain from NATO as punishment for failure to back Iran. So now we're like, hey, you know what? We're going to take the Falkland Islands away from you. How about that? Remember when they fought over the Falklands in the 80s? Citadel CEO Ken Griffin may cancel a $6 billion New York City project after Mamdani complains about his penthouse in Tax the Rich video. Mamdani filmed a video in the street in front of the building of the penthouse, announcing a pied-à-terre tax. I wrote, this mayor is not encouraging investment in New York City. He's in fact destroying it. Yeah. I mean, you have to have some investment in the city. You got to make it affordable for these companies to come in, or they just leave you and they'll go somewhere else. And your city will lose its importance in the world. Trump forced into retreat as probe into Fed Chair Powell was dropped. Why'd they drop the probe into Powell for when he's obviously refurbishing this building and spending an insane amount of money to like $1 billion, right, to do it? Plus, he's not. Plus, I thought the Fed was already rolled into the Treasury. This person should have no power, yet he still has the powers. He's still in power in Trump's second term. The Fed was never dealt with. None of these things were dealt with. You understand? None of them. So that's why all these pundits who back Trump are saying, wow, what's going on? There's still nobody getting really majorly arrested. The stock market is still like at 50,000, which makes no sense. We have massive deficits. Nobody will buy our treasury bonds and our bonds anymore that we use, our T-bills and T-bonds that we use to fund this shit. Nobody will buy our securities anymore overseas. The price of gold, silver, palladium, and platinum has been manipulated for decades. Your money is worthless. We're in massive inflationary period where the cost of food is in some areas is almost doubled. We still haven't got any free energy, any UFO technology, any technologies that would help the public have not been released. No medical beds at all. After promising that they would come out. No update on when they will. No update on the UFOs. And if we do have anti-gravitic craft, why are you keeping it from the public instead of using it to give to the airlines so that we can get to places quicker? So you can go from New York to LA in 10 minutes. Why are you keeping all this futuristic technology from the public and insisting that we stay in the old technology? It doesn't make any sense. You're protecting the deep state. You're protecting the people that have enslaved us. Hidden cameras at New York City's live animal markets expose filthy conditions, disease risks, and brutal treatment of chickens, ducks, rabbits, and sheep. These places are one of the most disgusting places you could ever go visit, and they're mostly in Brooklyn. And they're disgusting. I've been in there. I've been by these places before. I don't go in them anymore. It's just so bad. The pall of death is everywhere. They mistreat the animals. And this is mostly done, by the way, for like the halal food, because they need their food fresh, right? They walk around with carcasses in the fucking street, these people. That's what they do. It's disgusting. And it's unsanitary, and it should be abolished, I think. Mamdani sued by neighborhood that voted for him by 70% over men's homeless shelter placement. The lawsuit was filed by the resident group Voice, which argues that the city failed to comply with its own laws and codes in the relocation. Yeah, hey, you know what? We're going to put a homeless shelter in your neighborhood. Sorry. We could put it in way out in Queens in an area that's far away from everything, but we don't want to do that. We want to put it right on Park Avenue. We want to put it right on the Upper West Side. Why? Because we want to destroy your real estate value. We want you to move. We want you to leave. How many times do I got to tell you? J.D. Vance sidelined for Iran peace talks as Trump sends Kushner and Steve Witkoff. Why? Why would you send Kushner? They don't like Kushner there. Right? He's a Chabad Jew. They don't like him there. They look at him as the problem. That's why you're sending him, because you were told to send him. Chilling video shows UFO-linked scientists revealing disturbing encounters before her death, fueling questions over suicide. Yeah, these people didn't kill themselves. You're killing them. Because they were about to probably tell all the stuff that we have. We already have free energy. They already have fusion stuff that they could put out now. The Chinese are already putting it out. They made a mini-sun already. They can do it. And then a bunch of chemical spraying drones reportedly stolen in New Jersey as experts warn of nightmare scenarios. So who stole those drones? What are you going to put in there? Some fucking chemical and try to fly them over Times Square? Try to get everybody scared again, right? There's another fear-mongering bullshit. Does the mayor of Chicago really need a 150-member, $30 million security detail? What are you, like Kim Jong-un, dude? This guy needs a $30 million security. You have a 150-member security team? What are you talking about? Does the president even have that many people on his security? That's a lot of security for a mayor. What does Mamdani have? Like a couple of guys around him? A couple of Muslim guys? That's it, right? He's not rolling deep like that. What do you need so many bodyguards for? Who's paying for those salaries? The taxpayers of Chicago are. Post-investigation reveals New York City DOE has spent $5 billion plus on rent to private landlords, including buildings with no commercial value. Wait a minute. You're giving rent to landlords that have no value? Then why are you giving the landlord a rent in that place? Is it not being used? Are these like shadow spaces? This is a massive amount of money you're talking about. Department of Education. Again, the Department of Education is a corrupt mechanism in more than one way. Ari came out with a great stream. It's called I'm Hungry IRL stream. Watch if you're watching this stream, watch near the end when he gets to Washington Square Park. And you'll see the kind of entities that are around him. Right? Because he's a force for the good, right? And so what happens is when he goes into a place like Washington Square Park that's filled with all kinds of shit, that's like a portal kind of place where it's like, yeah, like, I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but if you have and you've been to Washington Square Park, it's got that energy, right? It's like it's in the vortex of like where a bunch of streets come together there, and it's got this energy of some kind of energy, right? There's dead people buried underneath there. It's a weird place where a lot of people have congregated over the years there, played music. Used to be a lot of drugs got sold there. A lot of people hang out, always hangout spot. In the summer, they turn the sprinkler on, and people go in the sprinkler and stuff. But there's just a lot of weird people. Usually a lot of weird people taking drugs there. Trump cancels U.S. envoy's trip to Pakistan for Iran peace negotiations. Fury over Ilhan Omar's $1 million accounting error. Yeah, that's starting to come up more. Deadline for missing scientist probe nears as congressman warns of sinister plot. It looks like to me that you killed a bunch of these people because they knew stuff about the anti-gravitic craft and or alien stuff that we reverse engineered that you don't want to come out, right? And Trump is sort of just like, I don't know, it looks weird. Like, come on, dude. DNC chair among famous faces at the notorious gay sex apps party for DC elite as glam guests line up down the block for the Grindr party. You ever go on Grindr? If you're not gay, you probably didn't. That's a gay hookup site, right? That's where a lot of gay males go and looking for another guy to hook up with, right? It's sort of like a sexual Tinder, I guess you could say. Right? It's like a alt.com or whatever. Right? There's sites where you can go where people have alternative sexual practices of whatever types, right? Of different types. Maybe you're like a furry or whatever. There's all kinds of crazy shit they're trying to get people interested in now. Back in the day, it was okay. Yeah, I like to get tied up and beat on or something, whipped or something. Now they're trying to all kinds of stupid thing like furry, like putting on furry costumes and like pretending I'm a fox and having sex. Like I don't know. I don't want to have sex in a furry costume. I'm gonna freaking overheat, right? If you watched a lot of these shows like Euphoria and these things, they're trying to get you into it, right? Oh yeah, OnlyFans isn't really that bad. It's just light stuff, and I don't have to really do that much. I just show some pictures, and I'll get rich. And it's not like that. It's getting you involved in prostitution, little by little, right? That's what it's really doing. Trove of leaked documents prove U.S. lab where missing scientists work with stunning UFOs. Yeah, they were looking into all kinds of shit. This woman couldn't go to a bar without people trying to roofie her every time. I mean, she's attractive, but she's not like a model type. So why are you trying to roofie this girl? Are you trying to kill her? Get back to her house and find out what information she's working on? Probably. Suspect dead after shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Trump reveals Melania's chilling words as gunshots rang out. And agents forced Trump to crawl out of the White House Correspondents' Dinner's ballroom. Why would you force him to crawl when you're supposed to put a ring around him and escort him very quickly off stage? That's not protocol. Protocol is not to make the president crawl on his knees out of the room. How do you protect him that way? I guess there was a table there. They figured there was shelter. I wrote, how did one man get inside the venue with a shotgun and a handgun? Aren't there any metal detectors at this event? Apparently not. So we almost got a 3-hour marathon. I apologize, but I had 180 different articles. 180 articles in a week. That's a lot. That's how you know that they're trying to suppress information and get you all over the place, right? Now it's Trump. Oh, Trump almost got killed again. Oh my goodness. Now it's Iran again. We're back to Iran. Now it's this. Oh, now it's Swalwell. Now it's the sexual allegations against the senators again. Oh, wait a minute. Now, back to Epstein documents haven't all been seen. Wait a minute. Right? Wait a minute. There's another thing. Here's this. Here's Iran war back again. Here's another thing. You'll never get to the end of the story because there is no end. There's no end to the story. The end of the story is your subjugation. And that's their story. The end of their story for them would be your subjugation. Agenda 2030 going into effect. 15-minute cities. Your travel highly regulated. You can only travel to certain places at certain times of the year. Your energy would always be on. You're going to always be on some kind of a dial with your energy. We want you paying for your energy the rest of your life. No medical beds. No free energy. Monsanto stays right where it is. GMO foods continue. Chemtrails continue. That's their world. That's what we're trying to stop. That's why I've been doing this for 6 years for nothing, for no pay, for free. Because the alternative is being subjugated under their system as a slave for the rest of my life, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to live as a slave anymore. I want to be free. I want to be free. And I think you do too. And so what we need to do is, as a collective, come together and focus on destroying the deep state. Focus on the matrix being destroyed from within. Focus on the hologram being destroyed. Focus on destroying all AI systems. Focus on co-creating the new world we want to create. And the only way we can do that is if we come together as one collective, which is almost impossible to do under the current circumstances. So that's where we are, friends. I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend Ash in New York, NPMP News, signing off for now.